Welcome to MELfeed.video. We are commencing a live web stream service via youtube.com from Echuca, Australia. We currently conduct these streams on Monday evenings, with other times to be added as more opportunities arise. Please visit our website MELfeed.video for further information. This web video project presents old and new community TV programs. Please enjoy your stay with MELfeed.video.
Good evening, I'm Leonardo Puglisi. This is 6 News. Tonight, Victoria's coronavirus nightmare. More people test positive for COVID-19, with fears that the state could be headed for a second wave. This coming as global cases past 10 million. Also, Scott Morrison's approval rating now at the highest since he came to power, but the coalition's primary vote is still unchanged. Donald Trump deletes a tweet in which one of his supporters yells out "white power" in a rare move for the US president. Tonight's Twitter poll: was The Simpsons ending the use of white actors voicing people of colour an unnecessary step? Will show you the results. And at the very last minute, community TV saved, with Channel 31 and 44 Adelaide both set to continue into 2021. 6 News starts now. Thanks for joining us. We're continuing to follow the latest developments on the coronavirus pandemic as we go to air, as cases continue to spike in Victoria despite the toughest restrictions in the country. On Monday, 75 new cases were confirmed in the state, compared to just 7 in New South Wales on the same day. Paramedic from Ambulance Victoria also tested positive, although it's believed they did not catch the virus on the job. And up north, Anastasia Palaszczuk told Queenslanders not to travel to the state and said any Victorians entering would either be turned away or have to pay for 14 days in mandatory hotel quarantine.
Can I just urge all Queenslanders, this is very serious. Please do not go to Victoria. Please do not go to Victoria. Stay in Queensland.
And our political commentator Jim Sharp joins me now live. Great talking to you, Jim. Now, you're in Perth, where they've done a pretty good job containing the virus so far. What do you make of all the extra cases in Victoria?
Well, it's pretty serious, isn't it? It's to me, it's quite concerning. I don't know whether you can see this, but this is the headline. This is today's local paper, the Western Australian, and you'll see that headline there gives you a bit of an idea of Sictoria. Did you actually see that down the bottom there? Sictoria. So that's the sort of what I consider to be unhealthy reaction that the problems in Victoria are evoking. It's a bit of a pity, because being a person who was born in Victoria and lived there for quite a few years, and now having moved to WA, I can see it from both angles. And it just seems to me as though it's causing division, and we don't seem to be reacting to the crisis as a country, but rather as individual states. And in the words underneath that headline, it talks about how our Premier Mark McGowan says the Victorian situation vindicates, the tough approach that WA's taken to its borders. So it seems to me to be a bit of an unhealthy fortress type reaction to what's a national problem, or should be a national problem.
All right, moving on. Scott Morrison's approval rating has risen to 68% compared to Anthony Albanese's 27%. This is the highest amount since he became PM in 2018, but the coalition's primary vote is still unchanged at a 51-49 lead. Jim, what do you make of all this?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's pretty narrow, but I mean, his preferred Prime Minister rating is stratospheric when you consider that he was something like 40% just a few months ago in February, and now he's up there at 58% of people saying he makes the better PM, whereas poor old Albo is down to about 26%. I think there's a lot of, and that's, as you say, well, I think there are a number of factors in it.
Yeah, and quickly before I let you go, Donald Trump, he's deleted a tweet in which one of his supporters yelled out "white power." Take a look.
Yeah, you got it, you! White power! Yes, there you go, white power. You hear that?
Now, the White House Deputy Press Secretary has since come out, said the president didn't realise the racist language was included in the video, but many think he did it deliberately and that he did know. What do you think?
Well, look, there can really only be two explanations. And one is the one that I suppose the anti-Trump school accepts, and that is that he's lying and that he was doing it to do a little bit of whistleblowing or race baiting. Or the other explanation is that he's pretty thick. If he didn't actually notice that those words being shouted out and understand how detrimental those words are. Anyone who's had a look at that video, they cut those shouts of white power come on very early in the video, and they're pretty hard not to hear. So it seems to me, either way, it just highlights the concern over Trump's fitness for office. Either he's a liar and was doing it for bad reasons, or lacks the power of concentration. We shouldn't have a president tweeting stuff out like that to a global audience when he doesn't even know what's in the tweet, if that's what he wants us to believe.
All right, we'll leave it there, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo.
And as we just mentioned, the testing blitz continues in Victoria with 10 hotspot suburbs targeted by authorities. Lincoln Holmes has the details.
For many, this is how Thursday morning started.
He works one of the reasons why you can be out and about, so that's all good.
This blitz is all a part of Operation Sanus to stop people from leaving coronavirus hotspots like Broadmeadows for non-essential reasons.
Where we will be, they will not know how long we will be there for.
I think it's going to make people actually stay home.
If you claim to be going to work when we intercept you, there'll be further questioning of that. There'll be ascertaining of where you're going to work.
The only reasons for people to leave their homes in the coronavirus hotspots include essential shopping, exercise, work or studying if it cannot be done at home.
Police are very good at understanding where they're being lied to. It's an indictable offence. It's in the Crimes Act. You can go to jail for 10 years.
Got a number of communities that I know are doing it really tough, and I know that they have a huge amount of frustration.
Lincoln Holmes, 6 News.
Checking some other stories making news tonight, and Australia has launched a massive cyber army only days after an attack allegedly carried out by China. The $1.35 billion injection will see 500 spies recruited to protect the nation from state-sponsored hackers. The government has also spent big on our defence force with a $270 billion cash splash aimed at protecting Australia's future, according to the PM. Also making news, a policeman is lucky to be alive after narrowly being missed during a multi-car crash in New South Wales. The officer was standing at the side of the road when a semi-trailer rammed into the back of the tow truck in front, with the officer almost hit by both vehicles when running out of the way. Incredible there. And Channel 9 has launched an attack ad directly targeting their rivals, Channel 7. The ad was made in response to 7 axing their local afternoon news in South Australia, with it now being produced in Melbourne. Take a look.
News made in Melbourne?
10 Melbourne postcode.
Or 9 News made in Adelaide for Adelaide. Weekdays at 5.
First in Adelaide's 9 News at 5.
Nightly at 6.
Good evening, one of South Australia.
To tonight's Twitter poll, and we're asking, was The Simpsons ending the use of white actors to voice characters of colour an unnecessary move? On Twitter, the results were pretty even. 53% of you said you agree it was unnecessary. 47% rather say it was a necessary step. The decision was made in response to the backlash of characters like Apu, and also this happening in similar shows. Family Guy decided to make the move as well, to not have characters of colour being voiced by white actors. I'm going to take a quick break now, but coming up next on 6 News, we'll have some details on a developing story, plus India bans TikToks amid rising tensions with China. Also, Donald Trump asks, where's Roger Ailes, despite the fact he actually died 3 years ago. And later, Channel 31 saved at the 11th hour with a 12-month extension given to community television. Stay with us.
Robbo. Streaming across the globe, Ben Norris, Rob McKnight, and David Robinson.
Ben, Robbo. News, entertainment, it's the Ben, Robbo, Ben. Robbo Show. Robbo Show.
The Ben, Rob and Robbo Show, Monday to Thursday at 1 p.m, right here on Ticker TV.
Welcome back, you're watching 6 News. We have some developing news now, and Vic Roads has moved to stop a surge in people changing their addresses on their driver's licences to avoid lockdowns and COVID-19 testing if they're in those 10 Melbourne hotspot suburbs. Currently, there is no proof to change a licence address online. With the changes made instantly, those who break the rules now face fines of up to $825 if caught. Checking some stories making news overseas now, and India has moved to ban Chinese-owned apps, including TikTok. The move comes amid rising border tensions with China. There are now 11.9 million users of the app in India, with some TikTok stars in India now facing uncertain futures. Also making news, at least 370 people have been arrested in Hong Kong after massive demonstrations on the streets, with thousands, opposing a new national security law from China. And Donald Trump has been mocked on Twitter after he appeared to ask the former Fox News CEO Roger Ailes for help, even though Ailes died 3 years ago. Trump followed that up following that heavy backlash with a tweet saying, "We all miss Roger." The federal government has saved Channel 31 at the 11th hour with a 12-month extension given to the station, as well as Adelaide's Channel 44. Minister for Communications Paul Fletcher, who has been slammed over the past months for not contacting either stations, made the announcement on the ABC's Q&A program Monday night. Some say, however, it's not enough, with many saying that it will be the same situation this time next year. In sport, footy fans have mourned the loss of one of the most influential people in AFL history, John Kennedy Sr., who captained and coached Hawthorn, dying aged 91 last week. Devastated fans placed cards and flowers on his iconic statue at Waverley Park, but due to the current COVID-19 restrictions, the number of physical attendees at his Thursday funeral was strictly limited. Kennedy had just become an official legend in the AFL Hall of Fame only weeks before he passed away peacefully. And staying with the AFL, all 10 Victorian clubs will be moved interstate, with no game set to be played in Victoria in the near future. North Melbourne, Richmond, Essendon, the Bulldogs, Carlton and St Kilda will go to Queensland, being based in either the Gold Coast or the Sunshine Coast. Hawthorn and Melbourne will move to New South Wales, and Collingwood and Geelong will go over to WA. Checking the weather map, Brisbane 21, Sydney 16, Canberra 12, Melbourne 14, Adelaide also 14, Perth light rain 17, Darwin 31, Townsville 24, Wollongong 16, Ballarat 11, Bendigo 13 and Hobart 12 degrees. And remember to DM us with your weather pics as well. Before we go tonight, a UK newsreader has gone viral after her young son interrupted a live cross on Sky News. Take a look.
Minister David Cameron was talking about... Oh, I'm really sorry, that's my son arriving. Really? Sorry, really embarrassed. Sorry.
So sorry.
Hold on 1 second.
Can I
sorry.
have 2 biscuits?
Yes, you can have 2 biscuits. I'm really sorry about that.
Yeah, OK, well, we'll leave Deborah Haynes in full flow there with some family duties, but that's what happens during lockdown and trying to report in lockdown.
I'm glad none of that has happened here yet. That is 6 News for this Sunday evening. You can stay up to date on all our social pages at 6NewsAU. Remember, if you're watching via MELfeed.video, stick around. Up next is NAT Chat, followed by a double episode of Harmony and Diversity at 8:30. Then at 9:30, it's Spirit of Life. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Good night.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Welcome to NAT Chat. My name is Paul Spanos, and today we have with us again the clinical counselor, Harry Malos.
Thank you, Paul.
Welcome to this hour with us. Today's topic is low self-esteem and how this can be explained. Low self-esteem is quite common in our society. It's not something, it is in every household, I would say, and attacks every age. But how does this work? How can we explain? How can we start this?
Yeah, well, it's a good question to a very prevalent subject in society today, Paul, that we struggle with low self-esteem, with self-worth. We feel bad about ourselves, we feel incapable, and as a result, we hear tragedies and many tragedies, even so recently that we heard the death of Robin Williams, who died because of depression and because he felt so unhappy with himself, and we hear things like that. So it is a very prevalent issue in our society today.
Because we're talking about low self-esteem, doesn't sound very big, but when it leads to depression in such a way, like take your life.
Yes,
it is heavy.
Yeah, and I think, look, one way of explaining it is our early experiences in life.
Okay.
Early childhood experiences. We can look at it that way, and what happens when a child is not nurtured correctly, is not nurtured positively, I should say, when criticism is addressed to them unfairly, when they are accused of not performing, they obviously have low self-esteem build up. And how it works is that in order to be able to actually deal with the criticism, to adapt with the criticism in early age, what we do in order to cope is create a false self, as psychology suggests. And that false self is identified with all the criticisms that are thrown towards a young individual, and we do that in order to cope. Because
this means when I'm a child and I've got that negative criticism, you're lazy, you don't cope, you can't do this and that. That means I create another self within me.
Yes.
With all of that as part of my cognitive behavior, or accept that as such.
As part of a coping behavior.
Coping behavior. Okay.
It's how, I guess, if whether you believe in God or not, it is there for a purpose, and if it wasn't there, the individual would be so overwhelmed and that he would not be able to survive.
That means in this case that coping behavior, I escape into this. When it
is a form of an escape, but it's more of coping, because all these things that are dealt towards that individual are too overwhelming. So our brain structure creates another false self of ourselves in order to take all that criticism.
Okay.
So all that criticism is towards that false self that makes me separate towards that. So the problem, that's a good thing as a coping mechanism, but the problem is as we grow older and we keep feeding the false self, we identify ourselves through the false self.
And do we use that false self as an excuse?
Not as an excuse, as a way to cope.
As a way to cope? With what? How can we put an example to this, to cope with what? If somebody has negative reinforcing to me all these ideas about myself, and I have put it into this, how can I use as a coping mechanism this self?
In order to adjust, and in order to actually live your life, you need to assess what has been said to you in order to move on. So we assess it by identifying it with a a self that represents all those criticisms.
Okay.
See how it works? But the problem is that...
That means I have accepted them in some degree.
Yes. It's not only is it accepted, but it becomes so powerful that it represents us. It no longer represents who we truly are, but who we are as a false self.
That means in this case I fall into the trap, believing that criticism as something real in me, but in reality is not the reality for me.
Yeah, which it's not the true person.
It's not the true person.
It's a false person. And you know, there's a difference between who we are,
okay,
and what we are.
Okay, can we talk about this?
Yeah, sure. What we are is when we refer to someone, what a thief he is, what a liar he is. This is caused by their behaviour and their actions. But who we are is something more special than that. Who we are is our true identity that no longer is represented because we've built up this false image of ourselves through the criticism.
That means I might steal things, but who I really am, I believe this is a theft, and even though I do steal, but at the same time, inside me, I know what I'm doing.
Yes.
As my other self.
Yes. My true identity is different to what I do.
Is my belief system?
Yeah. My true identity is that I have a special purpose in life. I am created for a purpose, and I have hope, and I have love, and I have all these things. But the false self, who represents us, is represented by all the criticism that we've received.
That means, can we say that false criticism or negative criticism?
Negative criticism.
Okay, that really steals opportunities for my real purpose in life.
That's right. And it creates a downcast society. It creates a society who don't believe in themselves, but believe that they're incapable of experiencing a good life. They're incapable of performing good traits. They believe that the only traits that they can perform are negative traits because they're represented by this false self-image.
That is very, very interesting to move on from that after the break. Please stay with us. We'll be back after the short break.
Which one are you going to get? This lady. Wait. Oh, you can't. Just a minute. Okay. All right.
Just needs a bit of discipline. Can I help you with your bags?
Thank you.
Autism. Change your reactions, change your actions.
This season, we need your help to control Queensland fruit fly in our region. Your infested fruit is destroying your neighbour's harvest and the livelihood of our orchardists and their families. Pick up and dispose of fallen fruit. Infected fruit in your backyard is a breeding ground for fruit fly. Monitor fruit fly numbers by hanging traps in your fruit trees. Traps can be purchased at your local hardware stores. Net your fruit trees and susceptible vegetables with fruit fly specific netting. Contact us for information.
Whenever the community comes to us and says we need your help, we do whatever we can to assist.
It is a great feeling to be able to help your neighbours, to be able to help your community.
Each Lions member and each Lions club in different parts of the country, we're totally different, but we have core values that are the same, they remain the same.
Anything that you can think of.
Welcome back to NAT Chat. With us is Harry Malos, the clinical counsellor, and the topic today is how self-esteem affects our lives and causes and results because of the self-esteem being low. Harry, welcome back. Let's talk about the low self-esteem. It means that I am a normal person, and I do things, and people have a certain really good perception about me.
Yeah.
But my perception about me is completely different.
That's a perfect analogy. People around you can see your good trait, can see your worth, can see that you perform well at work, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a sportsman, they can see the good things in you.
And they can see the skills that I've got.
Yeah, based on the truth.
Yes.
They can see it.
And what is it that blocks my mind for me to see that?
Because we're not represented by our true trait. We're represented by an image that we created that was in order to cope in early life.
That means, in this case, I focus into that self that we're talking about.
That's
before.
right, the false self. If you're, let me give you a simple explanation. If I know that you are an Australian citizen,
yes,
but you think you are of Asian background, yes, and I said you're Australian, and you say, no, I'm Asian. Because that's who represents you.
Okay.
This other false self that you have grown up to accept as yourself in order to cope.
And that means if that false self, it's full of the negative criticism against me when I grew up, I just carry that.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. And that's the problem. Although it is there for us to cope in early childhood, it becomes so powerful that we identify only in that. And anything else anybody else says that's positive, we don't believe, we don't accept.
That means I might do wonderful things,
yes,
but to me, I'm still on that false criticism that's been done to me by people who they didn't even know how to be positive with me.
Yeah, those who have labelled you that way, yes.
Okay.
Those
that means labeling is part of the things
yes,
that we...
Yes, look, when a child is labelled in a negative way, it just can't, it's overwhelmed. It doesn't know what to do with it.
Does this explain a lot of suicide, low self-esteem amongst the girls and females, believe that they're not pretty or something, or...?
Yes, well, when it comes to that type of thing, yes, girls are affected a little bit more. I think it's in terms of the looks and so on. Yes, but generally low self-esteem occurs to both genders, and not just to male and female. It occurs to both. Okay. We just don't see the goodness that we have, the traits that we have. We're incapable of seeing. I treat a lot of my clients because they have low self-esteem of themselves. They don't feel special.
And that trait comes from their childhood as well.
It's generally, it begins there. It begins as a coping mechanism from early childhood experience.
It means that brings another problem within the family. Even though I believe that my child does not behave well, I have to be very, very careful how to label their behavior, isn't it?
Well, yes, it's true, and it's an awareness and the truth comes in. Okay. Because we're not saying to pretend that you are good because that's your true identity.
Okay.
We are saying look at your facts of your true identity and focus on that, not on an image that you've created in order to protect yourself.
Okay.
So if you're a child who has been getting good to average marks, but you think that your marks are in a negative way, that you think are no good, well, we dispute that by saying, well, if you're not good, how come you're always passing?
Yes, that's right. Yes. Okay, that means we can. But before we go into the remedies, it's going to be the third section. But I would like to focus. What's the implication of low self-esteem? If we can put sort of a range of things that can happen to me if I sustain this low self-esteem.
Well, we fall into depression.
Okay.
And that's the danger of people who with low self-esteem. They fall into a depressive state that's very difficult to turn around.
It means everything is negative around.
Everything is negative. We're stuck in a hole that we're not worthwhile. Our self-worth is diminished. So what am I doing living? I might as well put an end to this misery and this miserable life that I have.
Now, if I feel negative about myself and I have low self-esteem, how do I see others?
Well, that's a very good point, because usually people with low self-esteem, in order to communicate with other people, because remember, low self-esteem is down low and the other people are above them, they actually become very critical towards others because they can't communicate from this difference. So I would try and bring you down. I would criticize you. If I have low self-esteem, I will look at you in a negative way and be verbally critical with you, so I can bring you down to my level so we can talk.
That's why depressive people and depressive behavior is not very attractive, isn't it?
Well, true. Yes, it's low self-esteem people usually are very critical people,
and that is why it's not easy for them even to make friends and to socialize.
That's
in
correct.
A normal.
It's because they can't associate or they can't relate to them.
Yeah, that means you can see the impact of low self-esteem is really pretty much into the social life, our behavior, and also how the environment is receptive to us or not.
That's correct. Low self-esteem people are usually not very social. They are confined in their own premises. They don't like going out. They don't like socializing because they think that if they socialize, people will see what they feel about themselves.
I mean, can we relate this on to Robin Williams' case that it was pretty much everywhere in the media, that himself was in a deep depression, while I would say 7 billion people around the globe adored him.
Yeah. So that's a perfect example of someone with low self-esteem who identifies themselves from a false self perspective.
Okay.
There's so much evidence to suggest that he had so much skill. He brought so much laughter to people. He was worthwhile, yet he didn't see that.
Let's talk about some remedies or ways of getting away from that low self-esteem.
Yeah.
When we come back after the break. Thanks for being with us.
Whenever the community comes to us and says we need your help, we do whatever we can to assist.
It is a great feeling to be able to help your neighbours, to be able to help your community.
Each Lions member and each Lions club in different parts of the country, we're totally different, but we have core values that are the same. They remain the same.
Anything that you can think of that you want to do and support and help, Lions are doing it right now somewhere in this world.
Being a Lion here in Australia means that I can make a difference to my community, but most importantly it's inspiring other people to get out and be part of their community and make it a safer and a much happier and better place to live.
More members means more hands, means more support of the community.
Get out there, do something wonderful, be part of this fantastic organisation.
The federal government intends to turn off community TV on June the 30th.
This comes after 25 successful years of local TV for Melbourne.
Serving local communities, including those in languages other than English.
Religious groups and faith-based programming.
Local community activities and sports coverage.
Interesting interviews with local people about local activities and groups.
And providing opportunities for community members to learn TV production.
We urge Minister Fletcher to reconsider his decision
and keep our community television on our TV.
Imagine not seeing the world you live in. Macular disease is Australia's leading cause of blindness. Donate now to Macular Disease Foundation Australia. Call 1800 111 709 or visit mdfoundation.com.au.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us with Harry Malos, the clinical counsellor, and today's topic is about low self-esteem. Let's talk about, is there any possibility or any pathways for me to step away from this negative way of the low self-esteem?
Yes, there is. There is. It's a process of a counselling process where the individual becomes aware of the way they behave, how they're represented, and giving them certain skills and challenging their irrational thoughts about what they think of themselves that doesn't truly identify who they are.
That means psychology or counseling, I would say, helps me with low self-esteem to identify that behavior in itself that I have chosen.
Yes. You didn't quite choose it. It became necessary for you in order to cope. It wasn't like I choose to be low self-esteem, because I don't think they enjoy it being low self-esteem.
Right. Okay.
It's just that is what happened in order for them to cope.
And somehow it's a trap in life to create that false self, isn't it?
That's right. It is a trap. It's a coping way, but it is a trap because it represents us, and we can't step out of it because we don't believe what everybody else sees. We only believe what we think and feel about ourselves.
Now, how emotionally I can accept that I'm trapped, or the thinking process what is the first mechanism of my thinking to step away from my perception?
Well, firstly, you become aware of it, and then you identify. A counsellor will gently identify the things that you've achieved, will challenge the irrational thoughts of your negativity, will base it on truth, and it's a process where you actually identify all the things that you've achieved, and how did they come to be when you don't think yourself that special or incapable of doing these things. So it's a slow process of identifying positive action and positive traits in the person.
That means you turn on the light to the area that I shut down the light.
Well, that's a simple way of looking, and I think that's what we do. Yes.
Yeah, and so for me to begin to think, I think about myself this way, but this is not only me. I've got some other stuff in there that I don't pay attention somehow.
Exactly. So we say, tell me, what evidence do you have that you think you're such a failure?
Okay, that's a good point. What evidence there?
Yeah. And as the opposite of that is there any evidence to suggest that you've actually have performed well, that you are coping well, that you are contributing well, that you have made a difference in a positive way to your family, to your society, to your loved ones, as a father, as a mother, as a brother, or as a sister.
Okay.
You've contributed, and everybody else agrees with it and thinks so. So we challenge that with foundations of truth.
Can we identify that departure from my false self, negative false self, as a mechanism that can describe as forgiveness of my negative beliefs about me? Or because really forgiveness comes down to the things that I believe I'm in the wrong way, or I do things the wrong way.
Yeah. And I think what you're trying to say is that it's very difficult for people with low self-esteem to forgive themselves.
Exactly that.
Yeah, because it's so true with that false identity that they can't see it any other way.
Yes.
So it's difficult to forgive myself for being the way I am.
Yes.
So I'd rather choose to stay that because it makes me comfortable.
Yes. And also, if it is difficult to forgive, it's difficult to forgive others
much more difficult
for that.
Yeah.
Because you blame everybody else for the position you're into, and you feel comfortable in that position.
Yes. So it's a way that I've got a safety zone here. This is where I feel most comfortable, and I recognise myself as that person.
For the benefit of the viewers, what would be the first steps when I recognise that something is wrong with my perception of myself, and I've got low self-esteem? What would be my first thinking of begin just to find the pathway out of it?
Well, learning to trust people, learning to trust people that are close to you, and people who care about you, learning to trust their opinion and their evaluation rather than yours is a good starting point, where you actually are listening to someone who can evaluate you differently to what you do, and you actually trust their opinion.
But in that case, a little bit of a dispute, I would say, because somebody can talk things about you and you feel upset because really what they say about you is pretty much, they miss the point, and you feel that this person really doesn't know me, so I cannot trust this person. Isn't it a way to say that to find people that you are able to trust them?
Well, yes, it's true, because people you trust, you know, and they've been part of your life, and they've experienced the truth about you. So you cannot trust someone you don't know, because they don't know you.
Especially people who love you. Really, it's a good starting point.
Yes, yes. It's a good trust, and you need to start with trust. And then there are other developmental skills that you can acquire as you go from trust to actually fulfilling and disputing that identity that you've created in order to survive.
Very quickly, the first is recognizing things in me, in that behavior. And the second thing, what is the tool that as a counselor use for me to begin to build?
Yeah, well, we challenge the belief system that suggests that you're no good.
Okay, so I begin to build a new belief system about myself.
That's correct.
Building on the reality that other people see and things that I can do or I'm capable of doing.
And it's good. I'm glad you said reality. As counsellors, we don't give hope on false pretense.
Okay.
It is on reality.
Right.
We write down, tell me some of the things that you've achieved. Tell me some of the things that you've done. And once they've identified with these things, then we say, well, I can see there's a lot of things in there that you don't feel about yourself.
I mean, refocusing on my real purpose in life rather than the false self.
Refocusing on the truth about who you are.
Excellent closing.
Yeah.
Excellent. This is the time we've got for today. Thank you, Harry, for being with us again. We're going to call you again. We have some interesting topics. Thank you for being with us. See you next week, same time.
So, you think you're ready for this?
To take on the world? Why not?
Northern Access Television will turn 30 in 2020. We are planning a celebration night with a book and a special TV show about our history. If you're a past member or a volunteer of NAT, we would love to hear from you. For more details, visit the website nat30years.info and find out how you can help celebrate 30 years of media for the community. The 30th anniversary of Northern Access Television. Let's celebrate in 2020. Taking you to all of Melbourne's big events, it's 15 fabulous minutes, Mondays at 10. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om.
Welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Parvin Kaur Bennett. She's a dancer and a singer, Australian-born of Indian descent. And last week we covered the history of Pavan getting to this point. Now we're going to talk about the dancing and the singing, and I think Kathak is the style.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Kathak is a North Indian classical style. It originates from the Rajasthan area, from the desert area, and it's a form of art which has, there are references to it in texts which are over 2,000 years old, about 2,500 years. The word and the art form is there, and it was originally formed as a type of devotion that was performed in temples. And the word Kathak comes from the word katha, which means to tell a story. So katha is the storytelling. Even in Sikh gurdwaras you get katha, which is the storytelling part of it. And so it's a form of dance which is like miming. And without words you use your expressions, your hands, your eyes, your mouth to mime out these stories without using words. But then often it is performed to singers and live musicians which will be singing the songs that you're depicting with your movement.
Okay.
And so you take on character roles, and a lot of the traditional stories are from the Hindu religion. A lot of stories about Krishna. Radha and Krishna is a very famous story, and it just goes on. You can also be depicting scenes of different festivals, like the Diwali festival or the Holi festival, and so you're acting out those scenes. And then later on it was influenced heavily by the invaders of India, so the Persians and things like that, and it kind of broadened out to be also encompass poetry of love and of sadness. And there's a style of poetry called ghazal, which is performed in India, and so now there's Kathak dancing that goes along to ghazals, and it was then performed for the kind of princes and royal courts and things like that.
Is it both male and female?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so if you try and think about what it looks like, flamenco, they say, originates from Kathak. So it's very rhythmic footwork, where you wear up to 100 bells around each ankle, and you do the rhythmic footwork like the takada dekada tak tak takada dekada takada dekada with your feet, and then the upper body. Do you know how the flamenco is very kind of fiery?
Yes.
And obviously the gypsies have had a very a rough time, and so there's that kind of, whereas Kathak is a little bit more fluid and graceful, a bit softer. But it's the same rhythmic patterns, and also the same sort of hand movements and the fluidity, the very fast spins. So that's what it looks like.
And so the music, the instrumentation that's behind that, what's that comprising of?
Mostly singing, and then the tabla. Originally the pakawaj, so the tabla is the Indian drums.
Yes.
And the same rhythmic patterns that I would be performing with my feet would be performed in the tabla. It's the same language that is spoken. So you actually learn how to speak the dance before you learn how to dance it. So you learn how it fits into the rhythmic cycles, and you learn the ball. Ball means to speak. So it's accompanied by the tabla, and then the sitar, bansuri, what other melodic instruments want to go on top of that.
Right. Yes, the tabla's been referred to as talking drum.
Yes.
I think. Yes, for that reason. So this sounds like a pretty intense type of dancing.
Yeah.
There's some sort of guru type training in this, isn't there? It's fairly intense.
Yeah, it's an art form which you spend years and years understanding and learning, and it's like with classical ballet and classical Western dance. It's got a lot involved in mastering it and learning it. And so I have a teacher, a guru in Ahmedabad in the state of Gujarat in India. And I go to her as often as I can to learn from her. When I was growing up, we didn't have that. We didn't have teachers that could teach us that sort of thing. My mum very she tried very hard to make us learn what she could from people that were travelling through. So we learnt Bharatanatyam, which is a South Indian classical dance, which is the very rigid sort of thing. But again, it's the storytelling and learning how to use the eyes and the face and the expression.
Okay. Yep.
And then when I was about 10, my mum sent us to Singapore to do an intensive course on Kathak. And then it was only after I finished high school and pretty much finished uni as well, that's when I started travelling back to India to get the real essence of this art form, which has been passed down for generations. A lot of the Indian art, music and dance is passed down as a family lineage.
Okay.
So traditionally you would learn from your father, or if you were an outsider, you would live with your guru, and it's called Guru Shisha learning. So it's more like learning how to live your life. It's a way of living, and it's a way of devoting your whole being to art. And you pick that up from being a shadow of your teacher, because they are the example that you are trying to be like. So in that way, it's very much the same as spiritual teaching, and it is about devoting your life to something, and having that commitment, because it's hard work. I would spend hours in a day just stamping my feet or turning around in circles to a point where I would just be so nauseous but it's that dedication.
Yeah. It certainly sounds a little bit deeper than learning to tap dance. Tap dancing's
hard.
Doesn't have
and some of the
spiritual
great
components.
Well, anyone who is that dedicated to their art has to really love what they do.
Yes,
and when I watch people like Gene Kelly from back in the day, and
he was good, but he was also good because he knew about time.
Excellent.
We'll be back in a moment.
Allah.
15 fabulous minutes every week. Meet the famous, the fortunate and the fashionable as Steve and Jacqueline take you to all the events around town. Not to be missed, it's the most fabulous 15 minutes you'll ever see.
Locals here made the shocking discovery this morning. Police have sealed off the entire beach.
There is a killer. One of the worst killers in Australia. Skin cancer. Every year, skin cancer kills over 1,700 Australians. Don't be a victim. This summer, protect yourself against skin cancer.
It's barbie season, so it's time for a barbecue safety check. Clean away any grease buildup. Swap systems assure that the bottle inspection is in date. The bottle should be upright and not hanging by the hose. And make sure your regulator and hose is undamaged, unblocked and unkinked. Check connections using soapy water. When done, turn off clockwise at the bottle first. A quick barbie and gas safety check always means a safe and enjoyable summer.
It's always been my dream to represent Australia in the Olympics. Epilepsy affects nearly 250,000 Australians. Like me, most people have their seizures controlled with medication. Even today, people with epilepsy face incredible discrimination, but this prejudice is just another obstacle we can overcome. We're just as capable as anyone else, and often, we have to be stronger. I promise I'll do my best for Australia. Will you do your best for me?
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Parvin Kaur Bennett. Parvin, you mentioned something about being a singer. Now, I'm not going to spring this on you too hard, but could you do just a little traditional song?
I'll do it's a shloka about Krishna, and done in the traditional Khayal North Indian vocal style.
Right.
Here we go. Kasturi tilakam lalat patale vakshastale kaustubham nasagre varamoktikam karatale venu kare kankanam sarvange sarvange hari chandanam sulalitam kanthe cha muktavali gopashti parivashtita vijayate gopal Churamani.
Thank you, Pavan.
You're very welcome.
To do that a cappella was fantastic. Thank you. Now, the language, that was in Sanskrit, was it?
Yeah, it's a traditional shloka which is describing different attributes of Lord Krishna.
Right.
And so his scent, his hue, his glow about him. Krishna is used very often in Indian art, both all the painting, the music, the poetry, because he is very much the god of love.
Yes.
And it's just that beauty which is inspired by Krishna, which you see a lot.
Well, see, the thing which stood out in that song, apart from the quality of your voice, but the intonation was clearly important. So how do you learn that? Is that guru-driven as well, or is you need to truly understand the words, etc., to do that?
No, what is for me the highest thing is it's not about the words that I'm singing. It's about the vocal quality,
right?
The flexibility within the vocal cords, the control that you can achieve, and the speed and all those agility, all those sorts of things that is achievable through the voice.
Yes.
And I find that in Indian music most, which is why I study it so much. And you get there by hours and hours of practice. You start off imitating your teacher.
Yes.
And so the way that you learn is they will sing something to you and then you imitate it back to them.
Right.
So first you become the parrot, they say. So you're just hearing it and you're over and over again you're trying to imitate it. That's how you can't sing something if you haven't been able to hear it first. No. So the main thing is just hearing it and trying. And I've got recordings of when I would be learning with my teacher in India, and at the time you think you're doing great but then you hear them back and it's very much a process which you develop. Yes. And you learn and you become more aware of what you're singing. And it starts off with just singing the one pure note, Om.
Yes.
And you start off, I've had lessons up to an hour, which is just Om. and they're singing lessons.
Right.
And my teacher would be singing it to me, and then I sing it back. But I've obviously not maintained that constant pitch, that constant airflow, that control enough that he's gone, no, we just need to do this, and you need to get your actual tone right of your voice before you can learn how to do all that twiddly stuff.
Right.
Learn how to sing a note properly.
Now, so is there a component of sacredness behind that?
Very much so.
Yes.
It's all about devotion. Indian music and dance is all about devotion, and it's all about something which is much bigger than yourself, and it's a gift that you've got that you harness. And the most amazing musicians are ones that are not singing as entertainment, they're singing as part of their devotion to this wondrous universe. That's what it's about.
And so even though you sang that for us a cappella, does that sit over instruments, or is it
something like that would be performed over just a tanpura, which is the drone. Right. So it's a 4-stringed instrument, and you just play it and it repeats over and over again, and you pitch yourself to that tanpura, and then you go from there. You let the spirit fly.
Yes.
My dancing teacher, do we have to cut off for now?
Yes, so it when you talk about it sitting over top of that droning bass line, it can grow, it can elevate into a sacred expression.
It should be a sacred expression from the very moment that you're opening your mouth, because what is sacred expression? It's being totally aware and having purpose to what it is that you're focusing your energy into, and bringing yourself down to that point of complete awareness.
And my awareness is spot on. We're out of time. We'll be back in a moment.
Wow, she looks like she had a big night.
Yeah. Nice glasses, Alice.
Hey, Alice. Do you want me to put the blinds down?
Autism. Change your reactions, change your actions.
The tax office can take money directly out of people's accounts, but you're not allowed to know. The elderly are being abused and neglected in nursing homes, but you're not allowed to know. The government can raid journalists for reporting the truth if it says you're not allowed to know. It couldn't happen in Australia. It's happening now. When the government hides the truth from you, what are they covering up? Authorised by Australia's Right to Know, Sydney.
I'm able to dream, I'm able to smile, I'm able to grow, and I'll go the extra mile, one day at a time. So put your hands together, we can change lives forever. Together, we're able.
Able Australia. Together, we're able.
Good morning. And how are you today? I am fine, thank you.
Red Lobster is a program about poetry featuring performances by a wide range of poets, published and unpublished, from all walks of life. You can catch poetry readings from all around Melbourne. So for an interesting and entertaining mix, come join us on MELfeed.video each Monday night at 10:30 for Red Lobster.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Parvin Kaur Bennett. Parvin, over the last two segments, we've been exploring the sacred nature and divine nature, in fact, of Indian singing and dancing. Take that a bit further for us. It's clearly very, very deep, and it divides between the south and the north. They're quite different. So,
I think all art has that kind of sacredness in it, whether it's Bach or whether it's classical Indian music. It's that devotion and dedication of putting your energy and time into something. And with that, there's a lot of patience which is required to get to that level, a lot of discipline, a lot of focusing of the mind, awareness, intention, all those sorts of things. Control over your body for a singer, over your vocal cords, and the creativity which comes, like, it's a difficult question to say, where does that come from when you start improvising, for example?
Yes.
For me, that's what Indian classical music has given me, but I think it's a lot broader than that. And it can be related to any form of dance, whether it's ballet or... and then, yes, like you were saying, it's the same fundamental philosophy. Even in India itself, there's so much variation from the north to the south, how that has been translated within the body, within the language, within the styles of music. In the north of India, there's the Khayal, which is more the Bollywood influence, so that's kind of the language of Hindi. And Sanskrit is used quite a lot. In the south, it's the Carnatic style of music, which is very different to listen to. The way they improvise within melody is a lot more structured than with the North Indian classical style. The rhythmic patterns that they use are very different. Like I did before, the difference of the dance, which is that really sort of straight thing, but it's all this control over angles and body, whereas I might be doing that sort of stuff and having those sorts of kind of strict hand movements, whereas the North Indian style is that fluid type of thing, but it's all connection and control over your body. It's the same with athletics, with the elite athletes of this world. That, I mean, when you meet people like that, they're fairly chilled out. Yes. They're normally fairly kind of so in tune with their own bodies because they've just spent hours and hours with just their bodies as their tool of creativity, I guess. And I find that from all sorts of things, like yoga, for example.
Yes.
It's yet another form of meditation and physical activity that I use to settle my mind and to have complete control over the extremities. Like, this is my vessel that I feel like I need to, one, take care of, put the right things into, eat the right food, eat the right amounts of food. I think that as a society we have so over abundant with the access to food that we've become quite lazy in that way.
Yes.
And it's all those sorts of things that Sikhism has taught me right from the start, and I'm just trying to embody that. I'm trying to be that example of unconditional love in this world, because I think that's the only way to be, and you can't be sprouting or preaching all this stuff without really doing it yourself, I think. So I'm just trying to do the best that I can from what I've learnt.
And doing a very good job of it.
Thank you.
But it seems that it's there's part of being deeply connected with the essence in all of the things that you were talking about. As you say, the outcome for an athlete is what they're focusing on, and for the singer and the dancer, the outcome is the true sacred interpretation of whatever the dance is or the piece is that they're interpreting at the time. Would that be so? It's an awareness. I am here for this purpose. Is the purpose never slips away? Is that what holds you?
Well, we can start talking about, like, what is the purpose, and for me, when it comes to the performance and practice of music and dance, is trying to attain a level of perfection.
Yes. Yeah.
And at each time, I am just trying to perfect it more and more and more.
That's right.
And so you become that image of that perfection, which I find exhilarating.
Yes, exactly.
It's a great purpose for me, and it's what I've decided to dedicate this life to.
Yes, to focus to that escalating essence.
And I think when people see that performance, and when I'm teaching as well, they get that sort of that vibe from it. I think, and it's inspiring, and also hopefully when I'm performing, I am giving people that sense of peace and oneness that I have to feel to be able to give that performance.
Yes.
And they come along with me in that journey.
Yes, it's a total. And we don't have a lot of time, but is there just one single passage, one phrase which you may dance, which just goes like that with you, which makes you chilled?
Just a note. It doesn't have to be a phrase. It doesn't have to be something which is written by anyone. It's just the freedom in sound and in improvised movement as well. Like some of the most exhilarating times I find, even in audiences, is when you're dancing along to it and you're just improvising your dance. You're expressing yourself with total freedom and carefreeness. Like, I don't. It's always.
It's sort of the touch of the essence when that happens. Parvin, look, it's just been so interesting talking through, and we could actually go on for weeks and weeks and weeks, but we do have to have another life as well. But thanks so much for making yourself available, and good luck with your escalation to achieve the perfect dance and the perfect note.
Well, I hope that each moment that I am actually fully aware in what I'm doing, I'm achieving that every single time.
I'm sure you will be. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week. We'll see you then.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu.
Ryan was diagnosed with asthma around about 2. Ryan never let asthma get in the way. He just lived and breathed for soccer. He was the kind of person that lived his life in excited anticipation. He did everything that he wanted to regardless, and even to the point of travelling overseas, he was actually advised he probably shouldn't. Ryan was like a lot of 19-year-olds. He thought he was 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Ryan had been playing soccer in the afternoon and had a great game and came home and went out to a party. During the evening he started to feel unwell and rang me and asked me to go and collect him. On the way home in the car he told me that he hadn't taken his Preventer for quite a few weeks. So I suggested that he really should go to the hospital on the way home and get checked out because I was concerned that he wasn't getting any better. Within a very short period of time, Ryan experienced a respiratory arrest, was put on life support, and 3.5 weeks later he died. Whilst Ryan had been in hospital a couple of times with his asthma, I don't recall anyone ever telling me that you could die from asthma. I never for a minute thought that I would lose him. Even if someone told you that your child might die from asthma, I think you'd be thinking that was for other people. But the reality is it happens to normal people like us.
Take it from me, one punch can be lethal. Thrown in anger like this, without warning, without any gloves, it can be deadly. One punch can end his life and ruin yours. It takes grunt to throw it, it takes guts to walk away.
Harmony in Diversity is next on MELfeed Video, followed at 9:30 p.m. by Spirit of Life. Then stay with us for 15 fabulous minutes, Red Lobster Poetry and Transports of Distant Delight. That's what is still to come tonight on MELfeed Video.
Hallelujah. Om Mani Padme Om. Allah Satnam.
Welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and today we're speaking with Reverend Dr. Sandy Ewell. He's a retired Uniting Church minister. Thanks for coming in, Sandy.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm rather surprised and honoured to be invited, so thank you.
Well, you've got a good story, and I think in our earlier discussion you mentioned something about your connection with ministers and religion going right back. Where did that all start?
Well, we could start with my great-grandfather, who was a Presbyterian minister in Scotland, who then emigrated to Australia in the 19th century with his family. And he and my grandfather, who was Professor of New Testament at the Presbyterian Theological Hall in the late 1940s, and then my father and my uncle were all Presbyterian ministers. So when I was age 16, the question for me was, well, do I follow the family tradition or do I do something else? Yes. And this was quite a struggle at the time, because I didn't feel any alienation from the tradition. It seemed to me to be benevolent and good-hearted. But it didn't have a great deal of feeling or personal commitment either at that moment. And I remember saying that to my father, that I agreed with all the Christian stuff, but I didn't feel anything particular. And that did change over time. But at the time, the decision was really made around the thought that this was an open future, not a definite role that I was opting for.
Okay.
It was clear to me that parish ministry was something I understood but didn't feel any particular call to. But ministry in the church was something again. It was a bit broader and more involved in what I would think of as cultural formation, being responsible for receiving messages from the wider world and interpreting them somehow, and hopefully in the light of Christian faith. Yeah.
Yes, so it's sort of a sociological component to it, was it?
I think so. It's hard to know. I think it was more the sense that there wasn't anything else that was calling me either. I mean, I then went on to go to university, started out doing an honours degree in philosophy and history, dropped the history after second year because it meant too much reading, and I decided I didn't need that level of detail.
Yes.
And philosophy was where the struggle was. You know, how do you make sense of the world?
Right.
And in that time, I joined the student Christian movement when I first went, which was part of the family tradition. You'd probably be aware that the student Christian movement began in Australia in 1896, part of the World Student Christian Federation that started in 1895.
Right.
Anyway, my grandfather and my mother's father, my other grandfather, were both very active in the student Christian movement in the 1900s, early 1900s. And my parents actually met through the student Christian movement.
Yes.
So it's in the blood, so to speak.
Certainly,
and anyway, when I went to Melbourne University, the first thing I did pretty much was to join the student Christian movement. That was a good move. Good people, good program, lots of interesting questions being asked, and quite challenging. So that was formative, just being part of those conversations and that social network.
So what sort of conversations, so what years this we're looking at?
It was 1959 to 1962 at Melbourne University.
Right.
And from there, I was actually accepted for the Presbyterian ministry at the age of 16.
Oh, good heavens.
Yeah, which wouldn't happen in the Uniting Church nowadays, but that's what happened to me. I think it was because of the pedigree.
Yes, I'm not surprised. but just going back to the student Christian movement, what did it look like when you joined it? What sort of activities were taking place?
Well, every holiday in the 3-term year, they had a conference to which about 100 people would go. This is a local Melbourne SCM event, and they'd have about a 3 or 4 day program, and there would be speakers who are usually university professors or theologians. They'd have Bible study, and they'd be looking at the rest of the world and trying to decide which way was up. What is God doing in this world was I think, one of the questions.
So what would you be looking at? Would like abortion or those sorts of issues?
Less so. No, it was, the things I remember were questions about what is the relevance of the church, what is the mission of the church. I think that was big in those years. And questions about sort of unions and the structure of society, injustice in social arrangements.
Yes.
And world poverty, those sorts of concerns. Much more, a more a left agenda than a right agenda, to put it very, very crudely.
Yes, it sounds so. Going back again, what sort of justice issues were current at that time? It would have raised.
Well, in 1962, Melbourne University had a big anti-hanging movement.
Oh, okay.
And this was around the trial of Robert Ryan, who was eventually hanged.
Oh, yeah.
And I can remember walking up and down in front of Victorian Parliament House at 3 a.m. as part of a picket line with one other person, saying don't hang anybody, basically.
Yes.
And so that was the kind of thing. The other one was anti-apartheid.
Of course.
Concern about apartheid was very strong. Racism, basically. Opposition to racism. And some awareness of Aboriginal land rights at that time.
So, as you say, it was more left than right, but they were very topical issues.
Oh, indeed. And it wasn't that the other issues weren't addressed. It was simply that they were seen as things that people would need to talk about and study and come to some, personal and perhaps collective conclusion.
Absolutely, and also look for where the church is in that, in some effective
Listen to
way.
the church's voice and see if it made sense.
Yes, a big one.
And sometimes it did.
Yeah, that's right. And then we won't talk about the places where it didn't. But if you've got, so that's also, when you say church, does that, obviously it does, but at the conscious level, does that encompass Jesus? Is it sort of the Jesus approach? Or the church
yes and no. I mean, I think that the church was experienced as part of the frame of life because I've been going to church all my life, grown up in the church, grown up in the manses of the church, Presbyterian church. It was exciting to meet people from other denominations in the SCM. That was one of the big things, that you actually realised that not all Christians thought the same way as Presbyterians. and that was quite a discovery.
Yes.
And sometimes they had things to say that Presbyterians needed to hear, and that took a little bit longer to discern.
That's very interesting. So it sort of broadened out your sense of Christianity or sense of Christ.
Absolutely, and also the challenge of Christ. I think the challenge of Christ to not only the world but also the church was very strong.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we have our challenges as well, and it's time, but we'll come back to the challenges of Christ. We'll be back in a moment.
Northern Access Television will turn 30 in 2020. We are planning a celebration night with a book and a special TV show about our history. If you're a past member or a volunteer of NAT, we would love to hear from you. For more details, visit the website nat30years.info and find out how you can help celebrate 30 years of media for the community. The 30th anniversary of Northern Access Television. Let's celebrate in 2020. Transports of Distant Delight is a mixed selection of transportation pictures from here and there and almost everywhere, but not quite. Some quirky, some mundane, some from the past, perhaps reflecting a transit system that has vanished into history, and some from thriving transport entities that continue to endure despite the constant pressures from the all-pervasive motor car. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Lane Beachley. Australians have recycled enough printer cartridges to cover Bondi Beach 12 times. That's kept 11,000 tonnes of valuable resources out of landfill. Drop your used original cartridges into the special boxes at participating retail outlets, and they'll be turned into new products from pens to road surfaces. Help us keep up the good work. Find out more at cartridges.planetark.org.
We want to show you what's dangerous about this river, but we can't. That's the problem. You can't see ice-cold water, snags like tree branches or strong currents. So in enjoying our rivers, remember, wear a life jacket, avoid alcohol around water, never swim alone, and learn how to save a life. Our rivers are beautiful, but more Australians drown here than anywhere else. It's simple. Respect the river. Head to royallifesaving.com.au/respect the river for more information.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Sandy Yule. He's a retired Uniting Church minister. And we were talking about the movement of student Christian movement, the Australian student Christian movement. There were some interesting aspects to that. What were some of the principles to being able to enter that movement?
Well, the basic challenge to enter the movement was to make some sort of commitment to following Jesus, following the way of Christ, and to test the truth of that with your life.
Right.
So what that meant was obviously very open, but at least it implied seriousness.
Very open, but challenging. Absolutely challenging.
Yes.
So what sort of challenges did you find in this aspect of following Christ and making that the...
Well, I thought I had a fairly good handle on the way of Christ simply from upbringing. So that side of it it wasn't a point of learning for me, I think. It was more the sense of engagement with the world and the mission of God in the world. And what did that mean? And how did you do that?
Yes.
And did that mean that you could go on demonstrations, for example?
Yes.
And, I discovered that it did, in fact, mean that. So I remember going to an SCM conference at the end of my first year, a national conference, which was over a week in January. And they have quiet time at those conferences, half an hour. And I went off into this quiet time and just doing nothing. Suddenly the words formed up in my mind, "Be still and know that I am God."
Yes.
And I thought, where did that come from?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
But that was in fact what I now look back on as my own personal calling.
Right.
To be still and to know. And my life has been around trying to understand. My career has been in philosophy and to some extent theology. And it's really around knowing. And if you can see clearly, then you know what to do.
Yes.
So anything that I have done has been kind of symbolic and flowing out from a response to something that's going on that other people have generated. Very few things have actually generated myself in anything like that leading sort of way, but very responsive. And always there's something that you can actually contribute, even if it's just one word or a listening ear.
I suspect that part of it might be reflected too in the Eastern perception that you've reached your zenith when you know you don't know.
Yes, yes.
And that's sort of partly what you're alluding to there.
Indeed,
yes,
indeed. And being still and knowing that I am God, what does that mean? And where is the knowledge of God in that?
Yes.
And it's much more in the emptiness than it is in the content.
Yes.
And the content is on the edges. The emptiness is what's really important.
Yeah. Yes.
And very hard to explain.
Yes, it's in the waiting, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So you mentioned most of your life's been in the philosophical side. How did that manifest itself for you?
Well, I went from studying theology in Melbourne to be ordained as a Presbyterian minister, and then went overseas to study doctoral work at Princeton. Came back a bit incomplete, but anyway, I was ordained to be the General Secretary of the Student Christian Movement. I was actually the last General Secretary of the Australian Student Christian Movement, because numbers went right down and something fell out of it, which is a puzzle. A puzzle that I've never fully understood, to be honest. But anyway, the other dimension of it really was what would you do professionally? And for me, teaching was much closer to my heart than parish ministry.
Right.
So I came back to Australia, and firstly to work for the Student Christian Movement, and right after that I took a one-year post teaching philosophy at Swinburne College, and then went to a Melbourne State College in Carlton as a teacher of philosophy. So that was my full-time work.
Right.
And during that time I had a part-time honorary ministry in Fitzroy, and then in Carlton, and that was what I had set up while I was General Secretary of the SCM, but because of a very small congregation in this inner city church.
Yes.
And 2 other people who also had, part-time commitment to it. So that worked okay and worked well for me.
So it kept you in touch with, what did it feel like, that transition from the teacher of philosophy and the person who's obviously a lot of that's head work to the heart work? What was that transition feel like?
Well, it was more the engagement socially, but this, in Fitzroy particularly, there's a raw edge to the community at that time,
yes.
And it was really good to be part of that. And it keeps you humble. I mean, that was one of the great things I got from it, because you just don't know what you can do for some of the people that come your way and actually want help. And are you helping them or aren't you if you give them $10?
Yes, that's very much where the question of what would Christ do in this moment arises.
I was very fortunate to actually meet and marry my wife, who was a social worker, and so her advice to me was always invaluable in these more practical matters. I relied heavily upon it. And,
So just going back, and I realise you sort of shook your head and said, I don't really know what dropped out, but have you got any idea, any feeling about what might have dropped out of the movement?
Well, I think so. I think the ecumenical movement in Australia got going after the Second World War in response to the chaos and pain and horror of war.
Yes.
And Nazism and racism. So the ecumenical movement is saying these things in the world are wrong. Now what can we get together and do about it? And so while people were still, in a sense, focused outwards on stopping these things from happening again, the ecumenical movement was strong.
Yes.
When we got to about 1965, the long period of affluence in Australia started to kick in. And so people became much more comfortable and they had many more options. And so everyone had all sorts of other options that they could get busy about and leave it to somebody else to worry about racism and war and peace and poverty and so on. And I just think that was a big part of the explanation. But it's impossible to go further than that suggestion, I think.
Well, yes, but it's a very good point, and it perhaps too it alludes to what may be happening now, because those sorts of issues are rising again.
Exactly.
And we've got some fairly strong, well, with the radical, I'm not going to call it Muslim movement because it's not Muslim, but that radical movement in the Middle East. Yes.
And the same issues are there, and we need the same responses, and we need to draw on the past experience.
And I need to do the same response. We're out of time. We'll be back though. We'll be back in a moment.
Are you playing renovation roulette? I'm John Jarrett, and I know that deadly asbestos lies hidden in 1/3 of Aussie homes. It can be found in any home built or renovated before 1987, lurking in walls, under floor covering, behind tiles, in roofing. Asbestos, it was used everywhere. So if you're a renovator or a tradie, you could be risking your life and the lives of others. Remember, go slow. Asbestos, it's a no-go. Visit asbestosawareness.com.au to learn what you need to know.
Dad, we need to have the talk.
What? You going to talk to me about the birds and the bees?
Dad, no.
Don't be shy about talking with your parents about the facts of life, that people over 55 are at an increased risk of drowning. They need to know their limitations, be aware of medical conditions, avoid alcohol, wear a life jacket, and learn life-saving skills. Have the talk with your parents today.
William Terrell was abducted from his nana's home on the New South Wales mid-north coast on the 12th of September 2014. And somebody knows who did it. Do you? There is a $1 million reward for information that leads police to William. That's 1 million reasons to make the call. Contact Crime Stoppers now. 1800 333 000. Make the call.
Hallelujah, Mani
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Sandy Ewell. He's a retired Uniting Church minister. We've talked about a lot of background stuff. Sandy, what's the more recent development? What's been happening over the last 10 years, whatever it is?
Yeah, well, I retired in 2012 from the position of Secretary for Christian Unity for the Uniting Church Assembly. So that was secretary to the group that is responsible for the ecumenical relations of the Uniting Church.
Oh, okay.
So that means the monitoring and nominating people to represent the Uniting Church in ecumenical organisations, National Council of Churches in Australia, World Council of Churches, Christian Conference of Asia, and a few others. And also the dialogue with other churches. So we have active dialogues with the Anglicans, Baptists just completed, Lutherans and Roman Catholics and Salvation Army at this time. So that was all very engaging stuff and quite important.
Yes, absolutely.
I got into that, I think, through coming from philosophy to theology, because at the end of my time teaching philosophy, I ended up going to Tonga for 5 years to teach theology.
Oh, okay.
Which was a great time.
Yes.
I came back from there because I had a sense, firstly we had a grandson born, and so my wife was coming back, so I was coming back. And I had a 1-year stint as the Dean of Students at the Theological College.
Okay.
And then got this job with the Christian Unity Working Group as a half-time position. Anyway, the sense I had was that I needed to bring something back to the church from my long period on the edge of the official and established church. And the sense that it mattered ecumenically. That is, that the Uniting Church has a particular vocation to be a kind of a vanguard forerunner group for the world church. To keep trying to address the issues that the church struggles to find a way to address. And I think there is some truth in that, and we have done some of that. Other churches do other bits of it, but the Uniting Church is important in that area.
Yes, yes. So this ecumenical side of it, is that still strong?
I would say it is not strong in the sociological sense. It's strong in the theological sense, in that this is really what matters. And there are enough people who know that, at least in the Uniting Church, and I think in other churches in Australia, for it to still be not just viable, but actually creative. And that's what matters.
And the Uniting Church, if I recall, is fairly active in charity and activities.
Big social welfare establishment. That's what's well known and very public and very good. The actual work I'm talking about is probably not there so much. It's more to do with the justice work of the church, concern about social justice matters and research.
Yes.
And the ecumenical involvement, bringing in the knowledge from overseas and what's happening in overseas churches, and reflecting on what that means for Australia. So that work, I think, is equally important.
Absolutely, it is. Well, who do you talk to when you come out with some good research and some good into ecumenical decisions? Where does it go to?
Well, it goes partly to the church itself, and that's through the ecumenical channels. You know, you just have to keep telling this story and asking these questions, because it's the questions that teach us. So that's, even if you can't see much fruit for that long term, that's what matters. So that work is still going on. Then after that, you see occasional action. For example, in 2009, the Uniting Church changed its preamble. So that it recognised the first peoples of the land.
Oh, okay.
And the fact that their wisdom was not respected when second peoples arrived in force. So that's now in the Uniting Church Constitution as a preamble.
Well, that's 2009. Just give us an idea, if you know, what other churches' timetable was on that. Is it something that it's been recognised a long time ago, is it?
I don't believe any other church has done something similar.
Good heavens.
I don't think so. Not at that level.
No.
I don't believe.
No, we won't hold it as a fact, but it's certainly...
As far as I'm aware, no other church has done that. And it's exactly what we're trying to do with the national constitution now. There's a real movement for this, and I think it's essential.
So there's that groundswell, this type of thing creates that groundswell, as you say, within the churches, but in society. When does it reach the deaf ears of politicians?
Well, I think this one has. I mean, that's what I say. There is a movement, and they just don't want to put it to the people until they've got a sense that a majority might pass it. So they're canny and delaying it. Fine,
Yes, but there is an awareness at that level.
There is, and they've called for it. So, and there's a group studying it and trying to draft what it might look like, and struggling, to find a formulation that's not going to get them into what they would regard as too much trouble.
Sounds as though there's some pretty good minds involved in this.
I think so. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I've been impressed with my colleagues in the assembly leadership. And also ecumenically. I mean, the people that I've met in ecumenical conversation across the churches have been very impressive in general terms.
So, any other major issues, social issues that you look at?
Well, we could always talk about the welcome to asylum seekers as a starting point, and that's another example where we're going the wrong way nationally, and the churches have said that for a long time and have not been, I think, properly respected for what they're saying.
And it's an area where the question of what would Christ do in this rings loud.
Well, Christ was himself a refugee as a baby.
Yes, it rings loud. So, where has that been pushed? Is there a groundswell which has reached?
I think so. I mean, there's Uniting Justice has put together a lot of resources. The Jesuits were the first on the ground with this about 25 years ago.
Yes,
and we've been relating closely to other churches on this as well. But there are a lot of local welcome committees and actions and organisational stuff for looking after refugees.
Yes,
from the churches. And if you didn't have the church's response to refugees, we would have a much greater problem than we currently have with those who are already here.
Yes.
And particularly those who are not allowed to work and oppressed in that sort of way.
Yes, it's a bit troubling that the public relations for the churches are not more effective, because there's a lot of people who don't understand that that's actually happening and the relevance of it.
We're still in quarantine from the media.
Yes, I'd say so.
That's the real problem.
We're not in quarantine from time, however, but would you come back next week, because we'd like to do, you've written a couple of books, like to talk to you about some of those.
Very happy to talk. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sandy. You've been watching Harmony and Diversity. We'll be back next week and we'll be speaking with Sandy Yule again. Thanks for watching. See you then.
Shanti Om Allahu
I was in my 40s when I was first diagnosed with bowel cancer. George, my son, was 6 years old at that time. These days, like people of his age, he's very busy, but he still needs to find the time to get to know his bowel cancer risk. Is that right, George?
Yes, Dad. Bowel cancer affects 1 in 12 Australians, young and old, and is our second biggest cancer killer. But if caught early, bowel cancer is treatable and beatable. My dad is living proof of that. So get to know your bowel cancer risk. Talk to your pharmacist or GP about screening. Protect yourself and the ones you love. Go to lovemyfamily.org.au.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Spirit of God in the clear running water, blowing through greatness the tree.
and welcome to Spirit of Life. I'm Mirella Rich. Our guest is Father Peter Ferwerda, a Catholic priest in Victoria, and we'll be discussing Our Lady Queen of Peace's message from Medjugorje, a little village in Bosnia-Herzegovina where Our Lady has been appearing since June the 24th, 1981, and every day she's been appearing to the visionaries since then. Welcome to the program, Father.
Thank you very much, Mirella.
And she hasn't been appearing to every visionary since then, every day. 3 of them every day still see her since June the 24th, 1981, and
yes.
The other 3 see her at different times.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
But before we started, you always wanted to say something.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
This place has been a major factor in coming to priesthood for me. So it's helped me enormously in my life and still continues to help me. But whatever the Church decides on it, I will abide by. So I just want to say that at the start. Whatever decision the Church makes as regards the authenticity of these apparitions, I will abide by it.
I was just thinking when you said that, what happens if there's a priest that really believe, like say Father Yozo, for example,
Yes, yes.
and he was a big, very prominent figure of priest in that time and still is today. If the Catholic Church said it's not true, they said it's not true, he wouldn't. I don't think he would. What would he do?
Yes, he had personal experiences, of course.
Really big experiences where he heard God talking to him as well.
Yes, he did, and. Yes, it's probably a hypothetical question. I don't know what would happen.
Well, anyway, I think it's a blessed place and everything will work out for the best.
Yes.
Whatever happens, because it's all in God's hands.
Well, the Pope has appointed an apostolic representative there now. So
That's right, yeah.
Archbishop Henrik Hoser,
Yeah.
who's been there for some time now.
Yeah.
And so that's a beautiful step.
Yeah. And they also say you can tell by the fruits, and thousands and millions of people go there.
Yes.
Including prime ministers of different countries and people incognito, from their country, maybe.
Yes.
Like, I don't know if Trump's been there.
I'm not sure, but yes, but
Yeah.
I've met, in my 22 visits there, I've met all sorts of people.
Yeah.
I praise God that I've been able to have those experiences both before I became a priest and since becoming a priest.
Yeah.
It's been a wonderful experience for me.
Martin Sheen was there. Michael York was in a movie made on Medjugorje.
I see.
Hollywood actors. So,
Yes.
it's reaching everybody, far and wide. To the little people who would walk from one country to another on a pilgrimage to get there because they've got no money. You know, I remember when I first went there were people that sleeping just in sleeping bags outside. They had no money for rooms or anything, but they would travel from Romania or some other country and just walk, old people, and it's amazing, beautiful. But anyway, we'll read the message.
Okay.
Our Lady said on February the 25th, 2019, to everybody in the world, Our Lady said, "Dear children, today I am calling you to a new life. It is not important how old you are. Open your heart to Jesus, who will transform you in this time of grace. And like nature, you will be born into a new life in God's love. And you will open your heart to heaven and the things of heaven. I am still with you because God permitted me out of love for you. Thank you for having responded to my call." This message I love this message. I want to make a song of this message. It's just so beautiful. Like,
Yes,
it's
it
all
is.
a new beginning. I'm calling you to a new life. So if we take this on, we take it on seriously,
Yes, absolutely. I'm now 71 and I'm learning something all the time.
Yes.
And so you're never too old to learn something new, particularly about our most precious Catholic faith.
Yes.
It's just a beautiful experience to get to know something more each day.
And we're very blessed. I think, I don't even know if we thank God enough for being in this faith. Like, I don't even know if I do. I've been born into the Catholic faith. But, I'm really grateful that I'm Catholic, and I'm really grateful to be in this faith. There's so much richness in it. There's so much beauty in it.
Yes, absolutely, Morella. I find the same, and perhaps it took me many years to appreciate that more, and it's especially since becoming a priest 12 years ago that I've appreciated just how precious it is, and I'm still getting to know more about it. So it is a wonderful value system that's unequalled, in my opinion, by any other value system.
Yeah. Absolutely. So Our Lady said, I'm calling you to a new life. It is not important how old you are. So it doesn't matter how old anyone is, you know. Everybody is called. You can be just born or 150 years old.
Yes, exactly.
If you're lucky, 150. Open your heart to Jesus, who will transform you in this time of grace. So she's saying it doesn't matter how old you are, we can all open our heart to Jesus. You know, you can be a child and open your heart to Jesus. You can be like a very old person and open your heart to Jesus, and something will happen, like something will really change in your life. You will have a new life.
Yes, absolutely, Morella. I suppose I experienced it personally, that if you do say what's in your heart unreservedly to Jesus and to Mary, his mother, our mother, you get to know yourself a bit better by just speaking honestly with him, whatever you have in your heart.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And you can do that forever sometimes. You find the moment to do it, you don't want to stop.
Yes, that's right. And it makes you feel good because you've discovered something maybe about your own self.
Yeah.
It's through prayer.
Yeah.
You know, so it's beautiful advice coming from our Blessed Mother.
It's absolutely beautiful. And so open your heart to Jesus, who will transform you. So he'll make you new. So what's going to happen to us? We don't know. If we open our heart to Jesus, we don't know. Let's do this all together. Let's today open our heart to Jesus and see how we feel tomorrow. We'll be different. We'll be different people, because he's going to transform us. If we do it in that spirit, with him transforming us.
Yes, I'm not quite sure of the wording, but not long ago Our Lady gave a message saying that even if you're taking along a new path that you're not used to, that she will be with you.
Yeah.
You know, so Jesus might want to lead you or me or anyone that's watching this program.
Yeah.
He might want to lead us in a path that we're unfamiliar with.
Yeah.
But he'll hold our hand, and so will Mary. Our Blessed Mother Mary will hold our hand if we cooperate with whatever grace that Jesus is offering us.
And we'll go on this journey. Yeah.
Yes, we'll go on a different journey. Yes.
We have to go to a break now. You're watching Spirit of Life. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly.
We always liked to play chess together ever since we were little. He was always a better player than me. When I was diagnosed with Pompey's disease in 2002, I was told that my life expectancy was going to be poor, and my condition deteriorated rapidly before I was able to start treatment. My brother and I both suffered from the disease. But now I consider myself the fortunate one. My brother spent the last 2 years of his life in hospital. He didn't have access to this wonderful treatment that should be available to everybody. The world just keeps getting smaller as you progressively lose the ability to walk. So your world shrinks, and then gradually you realise, I haven't been to the supermarket in 6 months. I'm 59 now, and every year I can see my daughter grow up is a blessing. I believe my treatment's made this possible.
To learn more and help those living with Pompey's disease, register at australianpompey.com.
Every time we buy certified organic, we're making a choice to help our environment and build a healthier community. But it can be hard to know that what we're buying is truly organic. The Australian Certified Organic logo is only given to products after a very rigorous process. So when you see this logo, it means you can trust that there are no genetically modified foods, no animal cruelty, and no harsh synthetic pesticides used. A healthier community is always better for our future. So the next time you shop, look for this logo.
If a man's home is his castle, his shed is his kingdom. It's a place men can hang out with a few mates, build a few things, even if you haven't before, and give back to the community. No man should be without a shed. The Australian Men's Shed Association is working to provide a shed for all Australian men, and they have over 400 already. Visit your local shed, build your community and make a difference. Find a shed near you. It's time to give back.
Love, love, oh till I feel the breath of the Spirit flowing in me.
Hello and welcome back to Spirit of Life. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Father Peter Forwerda, a Catholic priest in Victoria, and we're discussing Our Lady Queen of Peace's message from the 25th of February 2019. Welcome back to the program, Father.
Thank you, Mirella.
And I'll go on to read what Our Lady said. Our Lady said also, so I'll continue what she said. She said, open your heart to Jesus who will transform you in this time of grace. So we're in a time of grace. And like nature, you'll be born into a new life in God's love. I think that's so powerful because she's saying He's going to God will transform us. Jesus will transform us into a new life, like nature, like a new flower blossoming,
Yes.
a new seed coming out, and a completely new flower coming out. That's what we'll be like.
We'll have a spiritual springtime, I suppose you could call it like that, you know, where we will blossom. And just we need, I suppose, all of us, you, me, everyone, needs to be just open to God's grace and to respond to it. And He calls us in sometimes most unusual ways. But if we try and become prayerful people, He will give us His graces and He'll show us the way, and He'll walk that way with us. He says, I'm with you till the end of time.
And how do you suggest we open our heart to Jesus? Are there some tips you can give people? Because people will want to open their heart to Jesus to transform their lives.
Yes.
Because they'll be hearing this maybe for the first time and think, well, I do want to transform my life. But how do I open my heart to Jesus to do that? To let Him transform it?
It's a very good question. In confession, we have a beautiful sacrament of reconciliation or confession or penance. It has those three names. When I was a boy, it was called confession, but now it's called more reconciliation or penance. And in that, we're admitting our mistakes to God, really. The priest is there acting in the part of Jesus, but it's really Jesus hearing us what we're talking, whatever we say. And that's a beautiful way of opening your heart. And also when you're just at prayer time, to try and be in an undistracted environment, kneel down next to your bed or wherever in a private situation and tell God how you're feeling, whether you're feeling good. If something nice has happened to you, share it with Him. If you're feeling awful, something bad has happened to you, or you're going through some particular crisis in your life, tell Him exactly how you feel and ask Him to help you. Just be very humble in your prayer. That's how I would interpret what our Blessed Mother Mary is saying here, to be open.
Open your heart to Jesus who will transform you in this time of grace, and like nature you'll be born into a new life in God's love. So it's beautiful. We'll be born into God's love if we do this. And it's not like, I think we're so used to a fast-paced life, like fast food. You drive through, you pay your money, you get it immediately.
Yes.
You know, whereas with prayer you've got to take the time just really to get, like you said, to get away from all the distractions and really try and build this quiet relationship with God where you feel like you're just conversing directly to Him.
Yes, I remember I was preparing a homily one day, and I read this little comment by a psychoanalyst, and he said if everyone spent a few moments with God alone every day in meditation, he would be out of a job. It's a very humble statement to make.
Wow, yeah.
But it makes a point that we are spiritual beings. Everyone has a spiritual side to them, and we need to communicate with God, and in that way we find peace by being very honest with God, whether we're being good, bad, or whatever we've done or not done, or whatever we want. or we feel we need, or how we feel we're deficient.
To be authentic, yeah.
To be just perfectly honest with God and talk to Him as though you're talking to your best friend, which He is.
Yes. I was reading something about the visionaries, and they were saying with heaven, hell and purgatory, they said when we die, we decide where we're going. We talk to God and we say where we feel we deserve to go.
Yes.
We make the decision whether we deserve to go to heaven, whether we go to hell, and whether we go to purgatory. But we're given, like I suppose we're very honest then. You know, we're in front of God, so we have to tell the truth.
Yes.
And we make the decision. He doesn't send us to hell. He doesn't send us to heaven or purgatory. We decide. So we have to live a very good life on earth so that we can clearly say, yes, I deserve to go to heaven.
Yes,
You know?
well, let's all aim for heaven anyway, even though we're little hiccups along the road. But yes, it's a good point you made.
Beautiful, yeah. Our Lady then said as well in that same sentence, you'll be born to a new life in God's love, and you will open your heart to heaven and the things of heaven. So when we're in this space, we'll be opening our hearts while we're here on earth to heaven and the things of heaven. So we'll be making the kind of connection, the phone connection to heaven while we're here on earth, because we'll be receiving things from heaven. And in heaven, Our Lady said, I mean, the visionaries have said that everybody walks around in pink or red robes, yellow and grey. That's what Vitska said. And I think Ivan said blue or purple robes and gold and grey robes is what he saw when he went there. And they're all walking, praying and singing. And they said it's like an endless, infinite, like almost like a garden area, but it's just endless. There's no barriers, there's no gates. It's just like infinite garden and meadows, Mariana was saying. So
yes, we don't understand that, do we?
And it's a light that we've never seen on earth, you know.
Yes.
So
yes.
All right, well, we have to go to a break now.
Thank you, Morella.
You're watching Spirit of Life. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly.
I want to get the word out to blokes about a little gland called the prostate. It's only the size of a walnut, but it can cause a whole lot of grief. Prostate cancer deaths pretty much equal breast cancer deaths. The problem is, if you wait too long, it may be too late. It took one of my mates. Don't make me angry. Talk to your doctor about your prostate. And if necessary, get it checked. You'd be nuts to leave it to chance.
So how have things been going?
When a young person is diagnosed with cancer, it affects their family, their friends, their entire world. Red Kite supports young people with cancer and those around them in real ways.
Yeah, hi, it's Michael. Yeah, I'm at the hospital.
We rely on your generosity to make a positive difference in the lives of thousands of families every year. We can't always make things better, but with your help, we can lighten the load.
Here is some brilliant news for adults who have difficulties with spelling, reading a newspaper or phone bill, or writing letters and emails. It can be easier to improve your reading and writing skills than to keep putting it off. Take the plunge. Call the Reading Writing Hotline, 1300 655 06.
1300 655 06.
It could change your life.
Hello and welcome back to Spirit of Life. I'm Mirella Rich and we're here with Father Peter Verwerder. If you just joined us, welcome back to the program, Father.
Thank you, Mirella.
And we're nearing the end of the message. Our Lady said, she was talking, I'll read the sentence from the beginning. Today I'm calling you to a new life It is not important how old you are. Open your heart to Jesus, who will transform you in this time of grace. And like nature, you'll be born into a new life in God's love. And you will open your heart to heaven and the things of heaven. I am still with you because God permitted me out of love for you. Thank you for having responded to my call. So I'm still with you because God has permitted Our Lady to be with us out of love.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for that.
Yes.
You know, when Our Lady is so comforting there, she's continually telling us she's with us. So it's very comforting for perhaps people who need a bit of consolation, whatever crisis they may be experiencing, and I'm hoping that these messages help you and me and anyone who's looking at this program to open up our hearts to Mary and to Jesus, and so to feel, experience their presence in our lives.
Even if I can't sleep, I'll just play Mary's message and it'll just put me to sleep. It's just, it's the most beautiful, they're the most beautiful words.
Yes, they are.
You know, they're just, there's just so much in her messages to meditate on and to be grateful for. And it's a miracle. She's coming to earth from heaven to give us these messages. It's an absolute miracle. And we're so lucky to be having this. And she keeps calling this time of grace. So we are in a time of grace. I don't know what it's going to be like later.
We're so blessed, as you say. It is a time of grace.
And also, in your experience of going to Medjugorje, what sort of transformation, since this message is all about the transforming, allowing Jesus, open our heart to Jesus so who will transform us. Have you seen transformations in people?
Yes, yes, Mirella. Over all the visits I've made there, they're 22 in number now, I've seen not only transformation in myself, and I needed to be transformed, I needed conversion, just like anyone else, but I've seen transformation in other people, particularly when I've taken pilgrimage groups to Medjugorje. I noticed they go to Mass during the week as well as at the weekend, when they can, because some of them have responsibilities, so they can't always go to weekday masses. But I've certainly noticed a difference in the people that have come in the groups, and they talk about it. And one lady in my own parish has put up a little grotto of Our Lady in front, in the front nature strip there. So it does affect people.
Wow, that's beautiful.
It does affect people, and yes. I've met all sorts of people with all sorts of life situations there. I remember a man and lady had decided to divorce, and they came to Medjugorje to give it a last shot, so as to speak. And they were telling me that this was the case. And then when they came to Medjugorje and were there for a few days, they reconciled with one another, and they said, "We're going to commit ourselves to one another and for the rest of our lives." Yes,
it's just a miraculous place. I remember Leon the Grand used to make these movies, these videos about Medjugorje.
Oh, yes.
And you would see children, even children, teenagers, just sitting at the statue crying their eyes out, like they were emptying everything out. And even children, you know, it's just like everyone felt safe there. Yes. And a guy on his motorbike, he was just literally lying on his motorbike holding his rosary bead, a tough-looking guy, you know. Everybody pours their heart out, and they feel this peace there. They feel they can just be who they are with God and rest in God, you know. You can see that everywhere there.
Yes, it's a place of peace. There's an aura there, and it's never been diminished in all my 22 visits, last one being last year in 2018. And there's an aura there of peace and prayerfulness, and just to be amidst people who are there to pray and to beseech Our Lady for whatever help they need and so forth is just a beautiful thing for me as a priest, or even if I wasn't a priest. I just like being with people who are like that.
Exactly, and the whole village is like that. Everywhere you walk, in the shop, in the church, down the street, the conversation's all about God and Our Lady.
Yes.
Every interaction, it's like another world.
Yes. It is
of love. It's like a world of love and peace.
It is. It is. Yes, that's my experience of it too. And the Visionaries, I first went there in 1988 with my parents.
Yeah.
And the Visionaries have remained the same, just ordinary people willing to talk to you. I met Ivan in one of the shops a year or two ago, and we were having a little conversation. Very ordinary young man. I suppose he's in early 50s by now. But they haven't changed. There's no affectation. They're just ordinary people, and they've told the same story. It's been unchanged. It's been consistent throughout all the years that I've been there.
It's amazing. And even when I met Ivan too, I went on a pilgrimage at his house, and just speaking to him, like, because at one point he said we could all go one-on-one, have a little bit of a chat with him. And when I was just speaking to him, I just thought, I believe. I didn't have to say anything. I was, whatever he wanted to talk about, I could just believe. I thought, he really is seeing, like, the words that were coming in my heart when I was just talking to him was like, you really are seeing Our Lady. It's just like, there is no affectations, there is no airs and graces. He is seeing Our Lady. It's just so real. You can you feel it. It's like in the air. And Father, before we finish the program, would you be able to give us a blessing? Because the Visionaries have said that when a priest gives you a blessing, it's as if Jesus' hands are blessing you himself. So all of us here in the studio and all the viewers watching would love a blessing from Jesus in you. Thank you.
May the blessing of Almighty God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit come down upon you and remain with you forever. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father, and thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much, Marilla.
You've been watching Spirit of Life. I hope you enjoyed the program, and may God bless you, keep you healthy, happy and safe always. Bye for now.
Bring it to birth and blow where you will. Blow, blow, blow till I be much breath of the Spirit blowing in me.
Each week on MELfeed Video, join us for Northern Access Television's general interest chat show, NAT Chat. Each episode features interesting and informative interviews from people of all walks of life. Weekly topics include community groups, religious topics, and professional people covering many different subject areas. That's NAT Chat every Monday night at 8 p.m. here on MELfeed Video.
If you choose to drive when overtired,
you could ruin lives.
Someone else's, your family's, or your own.
Choose a power nap instead.
The right choice could save someone's life.
Proud supporters of safety in our community.
GMCU and Southern Cross Austereo.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Well, I'm here living it loud on the South Pacific. Woo-hoo. Well, we're here at the last day of the summit, and this is a big finale here. We're going to see the band and everything, and at the moment they're singing the traditional Fijian song, Time to Say Goodbye. Australia's got a huge history, and from the beginning of time to the first Polynesians arriving in Fiji. And we're going to have a look at a bit of our history of Fiji, and through a fashion show and dance on a stage performance here at the closing ceremony.
Like a mat that has been woven strand by strand over thousands of years. The patterns of this mat of Oceania have changed, as over the years different people have made the Pacific Islands their home. Each time have become entwined. Centuries ago, the Melanesians came across the Pacific from Asia, the Micronesians from the north, and the Polynesians from the legendary Hawaii.
Performance is about the whole history of Fiji, from the basic start of the Polynesian, and then all the other islanders, and then the Indians, the Africans, and of course the Europeans. So we're going to check out what's going on here tonight. It's kind of Fiji fashion. Which tribe are you from?
From the Warrior tribe.
Warrior tribe. You've got blood on your face. That's deliberate.
Yeah.
Is that the person you're killing?
It's a muck.
Muck.
Warrior,
yeah.
Warrior.
One half, one forward. You are looking very mean, I must say. What's this for?
It's a fan.
A fan, okay. So you're going to distract.
It's half naked.
Half? You are half naked?
No.
You've got this bark stuff as well, what you're wearing.
Yeah, I'm the...
the chief?
Yeah, the chief.
So the
warrior.
Chief warrior. So you're commanding all these other guys to kill, yeah?
Yeah, because they do the war dance first before.
Yeah.
So I'm the dance leader.
So how old is this tribe? How long do we go back?
Start from 75.
Across a great ocean.
Got a bit of a drama going on here behind stage. What did you do? You bumped your leg. He stabbed himself. You actually meant to kill others. Is there blood? Is this going to be crucial to tonight's performance? Will we survive?
He's a warrior.
He's a warrior. He's strong. He's going to live to tell the story. We're going to hide that under the elastoplast, under the grass and stuff, will we? We're going to have to hide that because you're going to be limping on stage. Right, just keep an eye out for this guy. He's a dangerous warrior that he's injuring himself. Those swords are really sharp, aren't they?
Very sharp.
Very sharp. Well, I have just suited myself up because there's so much going on here. We can do a bit of windsurfing, but you know what? I'm going kayaking. Okay. Now, the good thing about Fiji is that there's really no major waves here, and basically it's pretty calm as well. And off we go. Oops. I'll see you out there. Oops. If I get out. Maybe not. Left, right. Left, right.
I think I'm making it to the next island. We'll go check out what's going on in Fiji, and I'll paddle my way back later. Okay, there's many ways to travel in Fiji, and one is the bulla bus. It's got a bad haircut, but this is what you do. Free transport on the island to go from hotel to hotel. So we're going to check out the bulla bus. So come with me, we'll get aboard, and it's probably a good way to travel around the island. Let's get on board. Now the bulla bus is one way to transfer yourself from hotel to hotel. It only takes about 2-3 minutes between each hotels, and it drops by every 2 to 5 minutes basically. The music is pretty good. If you're bored and you need a scenic tour, just sit on the bulla bus for a couple of trips, which we're going to do. We're going to go around a couple of circles, check it out. This is a good way to see the locals go by, because you just get to yell, "Bulla!" and you always get a response. You watch what I mean? Bulla! See? Where are you going? The Royal. Oh, okay. Must be working. Ask what these... How you going, girls?
Hi.
What have you been up to?
Nothing.
Nothing much. So where are you going now?
Back to our room.
Back to your room? You're in Fiji. This is a land of sun, surf and fun.
Yeah, but it's like 1 o'clock back at 1 o'clock in the morning back.
Oh, did you just get here, did you? You're a little bit jet lagged.
Nah. Actually, I've been here for a couple of days.
No excuse then. No excuse at all. What about yourself? You enjoying yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? I think they're not very talkative. I think the parents are. We'll slide down to the parents. What made you come to Fiji?
Oh, that's her Christmas present.
A Christmas present, late Christmas present.
Yeah.
And you enjoying it?
Very much.
And what have you been doing? You've only been here 2 days?
We've been here almost a week.
Oh, a week. Okay.
We went to the cave tour.
Oh, how was that?
And that was wonderful. And we rode a Billy raft.
You built?
Billy.
Oh, okay.
Bamboo raft.
Bamboo raft.
You've been watching Castaway or something, have you?
No. But we did go to the island where Tom Hanks was on the Castaway.
I've just passed a couple of islands and I'm working my way to Castaway Island. You know what? This is harder than it looks. The paddles are all on the way. That's it. Now I've got the rhythm. Oga tuga, oga tuga, oga tuga. This is what the Fijians did when they used to attack those people and eat them. Okay, here we go. Oh. I think I need a rest. You know what I feel like? Either a nice drink on a cocktail lounge, perhaps I'll take a massage. You got the, what leaf is that? Vasili leaf, and the same here. This is fantastic. You can make an outfit just out of a tree. Are you getting married? Is this like a marriage ceremony?
This is a sign of a virgin.
A sign of a virgin. So you're gonna get married then. Any husbands out here that want to marry this lovely tribal woman? Any offers? I think I'm getting one here.
This indicates a Fijian woman.
That you are being totally.
A young who hasn't been married. When I'm married, then I'll cut it.
You'll cut it, as in tradition. So, how old is a young Fijian woman before she gets married?
18.
18. She gets married at 18?
Yeah.
Is it an arranged marriage? Are you told you must marry this man, or you choose?
Before it was arranged marriage.
That would be horrible. So you got the freedom now, you can choose. Yeah. Choosing anyone here, or got an eye on anybody? No. Still too young. We'll let it go.
This is a Tongan evening wear.
You can also wait for wedding.
You get married?
No, it's just for the night. Okay. It's made of tapa and we stick some shells here. Okay. And this here is a plant we call bao, and then it's made of that.
So this is all hand. It looks like paper.
Oh yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah. But it's actually tapa. We call it Fiji. I think we call it masti. Yeah. And it comes in different color. This is like its normal color, but if you want to paint it like brown or black.
I'm wearing what they call a cassowary feather.
Oh, it's actually feather. That's quite coarse.
It's all the way from Papua New Guinea.
Papua New Guinea, and you've got the bull tusk. Now, are you from a particular tribe?
From Daru. Just a bit up from Port Moresby.
Okay, and it's got the traditional paint on the face as well.
Yeah.
It's starting to crack.
I know.
We've all been waiting here for the show tonight. It's supposed to be on at 6:30, but it's running a bit late, Fijian time. Oh, sorry. You're just wearing straw.
Yeah, this is actually, I think, ginger leaves or something.
Leaves. Oh, we can make tea out of you or something. Dip you in.
This is the way to do it. Now I'm joined here with Millie, and there's a number of ways to relax in Fiji, and this was Now Millie,
Yeah.
what are you rubbing on my back?
Coconut oil.
Oh.
We use coconut oil for massage.
So tell me a bit about the massage that you're doing, and the other types of massage that are here on the island.
Relaxation massage and a Polynesian massage. And a bombo massage, that's the Fijian way of massage. You put a pressure on.
So it's more pressure point.
Yeah.
So what am I getting?
Relaxation massage you're getting.
Very good.
Thank you.
How much does it cost to do a massage?
$1 a minute.
$1 a minute. And
Yeah.
how long does the massage take?
Well, it depends how much you want to do.
Oh, you can do this for the whole day?
Yes.
Okay. Can I have a whole day massage? I'll have a whole day massage.
From Nigeria?
Yeah, I'm from Nigeria.
And what brings you here for the summit, are you?
Well, not exactly. My dad is a doctor. He works here, and I school here at USP.
You've got an American accent.
Well, I lived in America.
Ah, that's where it's come from. I'm thinking that's not really that African, really. So you're obviously fluent in English, and what's your other language?
Yeah, it's my mom's language. It's called Yoruba.
Yoruba.
Yeah.
Easy. What's that like, French or?
Well, it's very unique. I wouldn't compare it.
All right, say something.
Well, I could say Bawoni, which means hello.
Kanawichi.
Bawoni.
Bawani. Yeah. That's pretty easy. You're looking fabulous now. This is something obviously that's a traditional outfit.
Yeah, actually, it can be sewn in a different way. This is just a unique design of its own. Yeah.
Now, what's the fabric?
The main important thing is the headgear.
Headgear. Why is that?
Well, all Africans have it. So.
Significant to?
I think it's unique only to the Africans. Yeah.
They are very colourful, I must say. They're all very bright and colourful out there in Africa. Want to be noticed out in the fields. You see this blur of colour. But is it hot though in wearing something like this?
Because it's thick.
Yeah. That makes no sense. In a hot country, you're wearing hot clothes.
Wow.
Poor woman has to suffer again, unfortunately. Well, enjoy yourself. You're going to be out there on the runway?
Yeah, I'll be on the catwalk.
On the catwalk. Have you practiced your walk? Come on, do a Naomi Campbell.
Okay.
Yeah? You work it, girl. You work it. Come on. I know you can work it. You work it. Yeah, that's it. Give it. Swing those hips. Oh, go. You are great. you are. So I think we've found the new supermodel. You guys are doing a bit of a performance out there. What are you doing?
Yeah, we're doing a contemporary item.
Contemporary. So this is not going to be traditional.
I guess it is in a way.
You've modernised it a little bit.
Yeah.
So how long have you been rehearsing for?
For 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
And have you got it down pat? You sure? Yeah. So tell us about Indian culture in Fiji.
Well, it's pretty much the same, you know, you have the saris, you have your kameez and everything.
So does everybody stick to their own little group, or do you mingle with the Fijians? Is there a blend?
We mingle, yeah.
We're going to find a coconut. We're going to pull it down from the tree, and Jim's going to climb up. Got to find a coconut.
Yeah, I have to find a good coconut tree.
You've been climbing coconut trees your whole life.
Yeah.
You don't like the tall ones, huh?
I don't like the tall ones.
Is it hard?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes it's hard.
So you don't use any rope, nothing.
Sorry?
You don't use a rope or anything.
You don't use a rope. You just climb with a bare feet. There's none.
There's no coconuts anywhere. You've got them all. Shake the tree if you can't read it. Oh, it's pretty good. Don't fall now, yeah? Is it hard to get the coconut off?
No, it's easy. You know, the worst thing is that when the lizard is up here, the brown lizard or the green lizard, people, they frighten of the lizard.
You're not scared of the lizard?
No, that's my favorite meal, my diet. So how many coconuts do you want? Let's get one. Ah! Ready? I'm jumping down. You have to catch me. Coconuts, they bear fruit all year round.
Oh, all year?
All year round,
plenty.
There's no season for it.
So how long would it take for this to be ripe?
4 months.
4 months?
Yeah.
Really?
From the small fruit to the big one.
Yeah. There's only about, what, 6 or 7 on each tree?
Yeah.
A stick,
using the stick, not a machete.
Stick.
This is the Fijian stick.
Okay. Oh, this is a technique here.
It's a technique how to peel the coconut skin. Okay?
The coconut's actually in the coconut.
Yeah. You have to go.
Okay, this is easy, huh? Push it.
Push it and press it down.
Okay.
Yep.
That's one layer.
You have to peel it right around.
Yeah.
Okay?
Like a banana.
Like a banana. There you go. You can use a straw.
Oh, that's more sophisticated.
Yeah, to suck the juice out of the nut.
It's sweet.
Sweet?
But nice, not too sweet.
Yeah, not too sweet, yes.
It's healthy. Okay, now tell me about the...
Okay.
You got a story here.
Okay.
It looks like a monkey.
Yeah, it looks like a monkey. Is it a monkey? Yeah, it looks like a monkey. There. Oh, bula bula.
See the resemblance?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It doesn't look like me.
You sure?
Okay, the story comes from Samoa, okay?
Yeah.
And there was a time when there was these two mother and a daughter. They were living in the forest. And one day the mom said, okay, let's go out fishing in the creek. And then they come across this water hole, and they caught the eel, a small eel, a baby eel. And then the little girl said, oh mom, this little eel is so cute, why don't we keep it as a pet? Okay, we'll keep it as a pet.
This is a long story, I take it.
No, it's only a short story.
Anyway.
And then the next morning when they woke up, instead of a little cute baby eel, there was a giant snake inside the house. And oh, yummy, my lovely breakfast, I'm gonna eat you too. And then they said, oh, don't eat us, we saved your life. And then the next night when they sleep, they woke up, get a club and club the snake to death.
Oh, nice story, a happy family story, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they buried the snake. The next morning when they woke up, there was a shoot popping out of the grave. Oh, there's a nice little tree coming out. And then another few weeks, the tree began to grow big, and then grew up to a coconut tree.
Ah.
And after another month or two, there was this nuts popping out of the tree. And then they said, oh, what a beautiful nut. And they brought it down, cracked it open, then they got the shell.
Yeah.
When they take out the skin, and they were left with the shell there.
Yeah.
And then they found out that that's what it is, the head of the eel.
The head of the eel.
Yeah, the eel's head.
Who wrote that story? Because that's really bad, I thought.
You sure? Yeah.
That's a bad story. That's a bad story. How the coconut tree became, right.
Yeah.
Some a lot to answer for, huh?
When you want to open it, what you do, you have to see those 3 lines.
Yeah, there is 3 lines there. Yeah.
Okay, these 2 lines, they join together, straight across.
Yeah.
Okay, to the back.
Okay, so that's the half of the coconut.
No.
No.
You have to.
The top one.
Yeah, the top one. You have to hit. You have to hit this line, real hard.
Real hard.
Real hard, and then you just crack open.
Okay, let's crack it open.
Let's crack it open.
Oh, you just hit it like that.
Yeah, hit like that.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh la la.
Ooh la la.
Oh, crack perfect. Hang on. Ooh. Ah, look at that.
Wow.
Beautiful. Damn. Try this one. That's different.
Different,
so This one's sweet. This tastes like coconut, and the coconut inside. So the coconut oil comes from the white?
From the white flesh.
You ground it down?
Yeah, we'll grind it, we scrape it out, and then we squeeze it. Real hard.
Real hard?
Yes.
It's like tastes like coconut.
Tastes like coconut?
Yeah.
What about the green one? Tastes like...
tastes like sweet.
Tastes like sweet.
Okay. Thank you so much, Gary.
Thank you.
For telling us the whole history of coconut. Very
Thank you. You're welcome.
Cheers.
Cheers.
You can have the empty one.
Yeah.
Chin chin.
Bula.
Hi. This is the best way to end the day. Just sit on a hammock or lay in a deck chair and just watch the sunset go down. I think I'll order another pina colada. Later. Well, I'm here living it loud on the South Pacific.
When I was younger, my dad just took me to a rink because he had done speed skating like through his life. I then started to get like more involved in skating. Like when you start skating, you go to just leagues and you start as a recreational skater, and then you build up to the state championships, national championships, and then like the stepping stone for Worlds is here at Oceanas. So hopefully next year we have more skaters going to Worlds. I just love like the feeling when you're just at your top speed and skating along with your friends, because you get some really good friends over the years that you skate, and everyone knows each other. It's just a good skating community to be in.
Went to a skating rink just up the road from my house, back in Adelaide. Went there for a session, got hooked on the thing when we went there and kept going out, and they asked us to come to a training session one night. Went there and been doing it ever since. You get in parking lots and you train through winter even when it's cold, but you're doing it because you're loving the sport, you know, and at the end of the day it comes down when you're racing and you're around the mates that you race with, that's where you want to be, you know.
I got into speed skating as a bit of cross training for, because I used to do a lot of professional half pipe. So I used to do a lot of tricks and so forth. So I got into speed as a bit of a cross train for that, because the physical demands, you need to be very fit and very strong to be able to speed skate. So it was a good crossover. I guess the cool thing for me was moving away from a subjective environment and just worrying about here's the start, here's the finish, and try and get there as fast as possible. And it was a bit of a refreshing environment for me. Everything sort of starts to slow down a little bit, and you're just waiting for that whistle or that gun to go off, and it's you feel like a curled spring ready to be unleashed.
You got to beat the other guy, you know, you're always trying to push to get harder and harder. Next one is you're trying to, get away from the pain in your legs and the rest of your body you're going through, especially after a long race. And then after that, it's, you're just down to, just pushing yourself to get to that line, and win the race.
speed is really addictive, and once that starts to sort of come together, then it's like, oh wow, I want to do more of this, and it becomes really, really enjoyable. I guess the way I describe it to my buds is, yeah, I get to ride on really cool looking skates that have carbon fibre in them. As soon as you say carbon fibre, everyone starts to look.
The amount of training and diet and just general dedication separates like first place to fourth place. That's how close it is. So you have to be really dedicated to be the best. When you get your name called out on the Australian team, it's really good to hear, and it shows like all your hard work has paid off. In the future, I want to be in Europe skating on like the season called the World Inline Cup and just be the #1 world champion, because I've worked really hard over the years. World champion is my dream goal, and I really want to reach that.
It's just fun. You get out there, you get to go fast, you know, do something different that no one else gets to do, you know, and then you get older, you get better, you go overseas, you get to see the world, you know, you travel and keep doing your sport, you know, it's something you love doing.
Get active, get social, get on a roll. For more info, visit skateaustralia.org.au.
Hush, little baby, don't you cry. Daddy's gonna sing you a lullaby. When you're sleeping safe and sound, you've got the proudest dad in town. I remember when I first saw you, your heart beating as you grew. We'll read you stories to help you dream. Your mommy and I are a perfect team. As you put on a wedding ring, one day you'll have children too. Remember the times I sang to you.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV. The following program contains an MA classification and may contain adult themes and coarse language. MELfeed.video advises that it is suitable for viewers aged 15 plus.
I wrote the next one, but it's got two voices, so I'm going to share. This is called Nothing's Better Than Love. I'm not a gambler, but I'd better bet that tangle of flesh and that glisten of sweat hitch a ride in the minds of the most innocent to the most rough, and the longing for bed hits most of us before we're fatigued. From the moment we get up to the moment we leave, this vertical world has a jealous vendetta against all the lovers who want to forget it. Admit one, admit it, a ticket to pleasure. Yes, there's nothing better than love. But sometimes the fun times get overgrown, choked with work and hung up on the phone, and when little Miss Muffet goes to the cupboard, there's just no one home. And sometimes Adonis has to be honest, tells Venus he's sorry, he just doesn't want it tonight, and the time is getting away. And maybe he'd stay if she'd said something clever, if her heels were higher, or her eyes were wider, or that was real leather, or she was just better. But it's home to nothing, or whatever he does when he leaves, and she wonders whether she's dumb, and whether he's getting fed up, and maybe he means he'll give her the shove and tell her they're done in less than a month. It's anyone's guess what this could suggest when he says, nothing's better than love. How can nothing be better than love? Well, nothing, my darling. She's got charisma, head to foot. She's a lady like you, only slimmer. You bring out the caveman, she brings out the thinker. She listens with luster, but you interrupt us. The minute you've left, she eases my mind. She asks for so little and repays me in kind. With a silence as fine as the light in your eyes, she won't spend my money and she never cries. Doesn't argue with family or burgle my time. Won't tell me I'm handsome, but damn it, she tries. This nothing I'm loving, she's really my type. She doesn't get jealous, she's never possessive, won't stress me with her friends or see other fellas. No pressure in bed and I won't get her pregnant. You've got to accept that by hell she's impressive. A breath of fresh air in a world of excess. We have our affair without fear or distress or despair or that time of the month. She's willing to share, I don't want to break up, but she's something precious, so stop all this fuss. I just need her touch as much as I need us, 'cause as such, nothing's better than love.
The librarian. This is the scene with two characters set in a library. The two characters, Wilbur Clackerton, author, Wilma Ramington, librarian. Wilbur speaks first. Miss Ramington, may I have an audience? Wilbur Clackerton, you may have a peppermint. You have bad breath. Thank you. In reference to your advertisement, creative work wanted, I have a modest tome of my own creation that I wish to submit to the library. Tome? Tome? One more tome? Yes. Submit to a tomely thrashing, and I'm interested. I have a creative work. Creative thrashing? I am offering my own creative work to the library. What would I want with a creative work? This is a library. I have completed a creative course in... My cat has completed a creative course, producing a litter of 8 ugly furballs, and they all have an appointment with a bucket of water when I return home. Like to give me a hand? I have 2 buckets. I am an author. Are you dead? I have had a rather late night. Have you? At the Mooney Puckle Pond Poets, how often do they moon? They write poetry. Are they creative? They write poetry. Are they creative? They write poetry. You're not an author? Why not? You're not dead. I feel it. Or do you? Yes, often. Pardon? Why do you feel dead? Have you been with a woman? All night? Well, half a night? Well, half price? Actually, a tight tickle at half tick? To tell the truth, never do that. I have not found the meaning of life. No, where have you been looking? Looking for the meaning of life? Well, have you found a woman? Are women the meaning of life? There are plenty of women out there. Where? There, here. Miss Remington, what are you doing? There are plenty of women out there. Everywhere. Plenty of women. They are out there. Everywhere. I am out there. You've been to the Forger's sale. $9.99 a pair. Bargain. Price tag still on them too. I am a woman. Yes, I am out there. You are. Everywhere. Yes, but you are a librarian. Librarians like to puckle too. Puckle? Do the ponds puckle back? Moon too? I love to moon in buses. Moony ponds buses? Back seat? Scaring? Who? Motorists. Motorists following behind the bus, scarifying them. Who am I scarifying? The motorist following behind the bus. The motorist following, yes, behind. Following my behind your behind in the bus. Two moons rising, very scarifying, mooning from the bus's back seat. The Mooney Ponds bus's back seat. Yes, scarifying. Yes, very, very scarifying. I am a woman. Yes, I know. Do not let my three-piece, double-breasted, pinstriped, padded, shouldered, braced and trousered Fletcher Jones suit fool you. No, nice braces, shiny buckles, underneath, I am a woman, yes, let me show you, you have. Come to Arabia, Lawrence, ride the magic carpet. No, not the magic carpet. My Aladdin, let me rub your Aladdin's lamp. Wilma, your magic carpet needs trimming. Oh, come back. Damn braces. Bruise me buds bloody brutal.
You're there when they can't sleep. You're there when they forget. But who's there when they're at school? Asthma can be serious. It affects 1 in 10 Australians and claims 400 lives each year. Does anyone at your school know what to do in an asthma emergency? Log on to asthmafriendlyschools.org.au and find out if your school is asthma friendly. Shouldn't every school be asthma friendly?
Every day, in many ways, the Royal Flying Doctor Service takes the finest care to Australia's furthest corners so that all Australians can enjoy the best of health. The Royal Flying Doctor Service has been taking care of Australians for over 80 years. But we still need your help to continue providing emergency rescue and essential health care to remote and rural communities. Make a donation or become a supporter and help keep the Flying Doctor flying.
Yeah.
This is exactly what happened last time.
Oh, look, I can't believe they're not running in.
Fine.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can you believe he works here with us?
But did you hear about what he did last week? Yeah. Oh my god. Oh, hang on, he's coming.
Okay.
Hey.
Okay, you got two.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, look at him. That guy's a freak. Can you believe it? He won gold in the 100. Legend.
one called Extraordinary Love. We'll meet near the lilies that grow in the ditch beside the railway line. I'll meet you in a room nauseated by its own beauty, repressed in the memory of time. We'll meet where the air smells like Moscato. We'll meet in the tide foam of a stranger's blue-grey eyes. You'll meet me searching for sanity between the faces at restaurants. I'll find your name scorched in cursive across the sky. We'll dine like lice in the garish plumage of celebrities. I'll wear stilts so I can hear you sway. You'll swear off air and breathe tomorrow. We'll kiss and I'll exhale yesterday. We'll sweat silver down the gutters of Mars and stride to outpace the white lace sky when it's falling. Your neck will audition as the new Milky Way. You'll smell like clear summer water against tarpaulin. There's no time like the present to schedule our supernova future for 10 years from last week. There's no place like the stairwell of an underwater lighthouse to sit side by side and speak. There's nothing ordinary about love, nothing that isn't mad as a flock of starlings in the way you stand, and if you'd only call me darling, and if you'd only touch my hand, I'd never, ever be ordinary again.
Dawning at the dead end. I walked all night and met a sunrise by the roadside at a dead-end road. Full of red, dusty dirt, there was a dyke. Apparently, it was inhabited by a witch. I became enchanted by her spell when she spoke to me in a high-pitched operatic vibrato, saying, "See the crimson rose, that's me." I looked. The flower was all alone. "That's me, pick it." I had a feeling that if I did what I was told, that devastation would arise. It was the only one, singular, by itself. "Pick me and I will thorn you," she continued. "I want your blood to match my petal. Pick me and you'll regret, fall into sorrow and forget all happiness." I was glad I didn't act in haste. I sniffed her fragrance and found such strength of smell that once again I became under her spell. I fought the want to touch her, and then the wattle spoke. "Pick me, I am plenty." Then suddenly I awoke, and next to my pillow was the pom-poms of pollen on a branch of green. And I wondered how it got there, because I'd forgotten.
Traditionally on Facebook, Earth Hour poems are 3 lines long, but I went ahead and wrote a long one. This is 73 lines long and they all end in S. It's called A Poetry Night During Earth Hour. Not invisible, just anonymous. Everyone but the very gregarious is inaudible in darkness. Sullen fairy lights remind us this is Christmas for shadows. They wrap us like presents. Friends become acquaintances. Strangers become acquaintances. Humanity demoted wholesale to a squirming backdrop of acquaintances. Lawn chairs are still uncomfortable with the lights off, but indoors, candles gobble oxygen and hoard warmth, hoard the reach of hands and enunciation of perhaps, mock spontaneous plans. A candelabra trident of fire tips, sneezes itself out of existence, thwarting delicious chaos before the stage can be engulfed in honest flames, before crackles distract the audience beside us and we can back off, or at least magic up some marshmallows to toast. Nobody wishes each other happy Earth Hour. Even scones are underdone, perhaps baked while the famine of electricity was on. My electric pink scarf is muted with only tea lights to see by. Kids stumble wild, somehow aware of their shrieks' quietness when their faces and limbs cannot be seen. Adults feel their way through conversations, sit in huddles that with illumination might have been gatherings or embraces. The wayside is wider than usual tonight, accommodates phrases that might have been heralded as genius if everyone's pupils weren't obliged to swallow their irises. Basic communication becomes challenging or, better yet, tasteless. Subtlety devours its own future and past. Does an Oedipus. The absence of power censors luxuries and details. I dread the day when prices rise such that sight must be foregone for some genuine goodness' sake. Till then I'll hoard my social interactions, live on rations of reticence, regress to silence till the dawn, and save my insights for when the lights are on.
This is for Leon Saper. He was a fabulous potter and he was a Holocaust survivor. And I met him when I was out at St Andrew's Market. It's called White Clay. In your house devoid of straight lines, you gave the world colours never seen before. Dragons and butterflies, fabulous beasts. Art created from white clay. Your hands at the wheel, expert in motion. Memories recorded in museums. Tormented dreams haunt us all when everyone and everything was stolen from you. A new country and a new dream. In your house devoid of straight lines, art created from white clay, dragons and butterflies. All that a man can hope to achieve, to find his freedom in a prison cell. Ashes will swirl amongst the stars tonight, art created from white clay, now displayed on a simple Hessian backdrop. You gave the world colours never seen before. Thank you.
I was at a Lamama last week and a friend said, you read too many books. I thought, what? That's an interesting line. I went home and went to sleep and then woke up and this phrase came to mind, which is the title, Scholar of the Air, sort of reply to that. Or justification for it, really. He saw himself as being a scholar of the air. The reams of cloud he watched swimming in the wind were the verses that filled the book of his eye. The poignant tones the clouds took on at dawn and dusk became the haiku of his stare. He was a versifier of the flames' flickering tongues, the spelling out of words in the lifting smoke. He saw in the throbbing fire's glow, as buckled midnight moon crept towards sleep, the origins of science and philosophy, being written in the peeling ash, scrolling off logs of willow, elm and oak. He saw the sum and total, their addition and divide, and gazed up as the mathematics of the stars displayed their sign. You read too many books, he sighed. Your talent to discern is confined to the calculation of ink and painted jewel-washed design. Resign yourself instead to the reading of the world, to the shape and sentence of the lifting wings of insect and bird, to the capture and letting go of your thoughts, into the fine writing of sunlight, threading through the shimmering leaves of this quiet river valley's moment.
Australian women need to kiss more. Watch out for persistent and unusual symptoms as they could be a sign of ovarian cancer. Know the important signs and symptoms. Kiss. Look out for symptoms like abdominal or back pain, difficulty eating or feeling full quickly, or persistent bloating, or a change in toilet habits. If you're experiencing persistent and unusual symptoms for more than 14 days, see a GP. Make sure you kiss regularly.
Had enough of the bad news about carbon dioxide and climate change? Wood is one solution. Trees take CO2 from the air and store it in their wood. They're also renewable, unlike concrete and steel. But the wood you choose should be recycled or from certified plantations or forests. This helps protect areas of high conservation value. So next time you're building or buying something, make it wood and do your world some good.
I was diagnosed with Parkinson's at 27.
I was 46.
I was 62.
The first symptom I noticed
Was loss of balance.
Was that I was always tired.
was a loss of smell.
The most difficult thing for me is not to be able to travel in my retirement.
The most difficult thing for me was giving up a career that I loved.
The hardest thing for my mum was being pregnant with me.
Most of us experience life's ups and downs, but we can always appreciate the finer details that make life worth living. But for 1 in 5 of us, mental illness can make us lose sight of the big picture. That's when Paran Mission can lend a helping hand. We've been caring for the community for over 60 years, finding a place for people with no place. Show your support and stand up for mental illness. Visit our website and make a donation today.
Requiem for a Gunslinger. The trail that leads west beyond Box Canyon to Boot Hill, last lone hero riding free, 10 graves to Gamara. Tomorrow that's where I'll be. It's always above the deadline, that's how violence rides. Saddling up the west wind, another kid at sundown gunboy dies. 5 aces on the Limbo Trail, ride, rebel, ride, to the gallows at Gilla Bend, 6 shooters by my side. Singing Sedalia gun song and Longback Vale too. Out on the blood red range, death, I'm always riding towards you. I've seen the rise of the gun sniper, and in bloody Utah they say it's Jim Crow buzzards that'll come to roost on my ghost gun someday. So here's to the return of the gunfighter, passport to hell, because you can only die once, and I'm always in death's spell. Long trail to Diablo, big man and big gun, where gun hawks roost on Denver Ridge, Winchester, setting sun. So now they come a-hunting me. They are many, we are few. Lone Stars from Los Lobos, Midwest Marshals too. 'Tis the ballad of the gun tipper, the cowboy kid's revenge. Gun shark to the coward, for silver pieces I avenge. Shiloh's kin and Satan's 6-gun, coyote howls at the moon. I'm a killer on the run, and I'll do more killing soon. I want to die at Burning Spur, get lost in Badlands vast, because I'm wanted on the East Coast too, for widow making, with my gun hand fast. I'm a running target for the federales, but Boot Hill's for lawmen too. I'm a ghost town bonanza, undercover at high noon. Try me, come a-gunning, with your big Jim rebel courage, gun punks and 10th raiders. For me, you just are forage. Fast gun talks fast, to Colt hostage and gun lame, come take on my fiery friend, and I'll notch up another name. 60 miles from Sundance, another 45 caliber trap, another Rancho Bravo rebel trying to put a bullet in my back. I'm a 6-gun outcast, so hang rope for me at high noon. It's gunfight at dark dawn tomorrow, and not a deathly day too soon. Took 2 lives in Arkansas, trader's revenge drawn down, 3 more in Dodge City, at least 1 in every other town. So it's a 6-gun showdown vendetta at last stand corral. Lawless gun, death demon, riding on to hell. There's no mercy in a bullet. Death's snake strikes but once. This has been a litany for a loser, and Lord, I knows I'm one.
Happiness. Do not despise he who finds happiness in a bottle. And there are but a few who do. For though many try, there exists only in small amount those for whom there is no other avenue but this, to achieve that which we all seek, whether we want to or not. For this pursuit is a fundamental drive, often misunderstood, grafted onto us tighter than our DNA. so much of part of us, it even comes out in our lore. There's no getting away from it. No matter how far we run, no matter how much we despise those who can only find it in a bottle. And if we wish to take their bottle away from them and find them another path to happiness, then we must be prepared to take their place in the bottle or on the cross.
At the dam the other day, I read a depressing little poem. I didn't think it was going to go down all that well. And yes, people actually liked it. So, Bron was delighted that there was some darkness around. So, really enthused, I've decided to write a series of them. This is the second one. Wrote it today. The liminal time. Dear S, she notices. Memory asks me these questions, blowing in through the yellow light of dusk, with flies on the restaurant veranda. Tears now I wonder as my eyes open over the grey cliché cloud as kilometres long lays itself along the hills, blowing in through the yellow light of dusk. Tears now I wonder who he is, this man you love, who the loving of stops you from loving. As my eyes open over the grey cliché driving the highway murderous to moths and any ideal I might have of loving, lays itself along the hills coming home with you, blowing in through the yellow light of dusk. Memory asks me these questions, your child waits, I wait. Oh sister, let's go down. He waits but might go on unconscious like most. As you wait, so it becomes the thing itself you do. Oh brothers, let's go down. The weight of water, the words in our hands. I ask these questions of memory, blowing in through the yellow light of dusk. That's it.
Northern Access Television will turn 30 in 2020. We are planning a celebration night with a book and a special TV show about our history. If you're a past member or a volunteer of NAT, we would love to hear from you. For more details, visit the website nat30years.info and find out how you can help celebrate 30 years of media for the community. The 30th anniversary of Northern Access Television. Let's celebrate in 2020. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV. Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV. Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
They say there's a chance I could die in a car crash, maybe even from heart disease, maybe even skin cancer.
I could die in a work-related accident, or I could die in a fight.
The fact is, the biggest cause of death for men in my age group is suicide.
Please don't let this happen to me.
You can do something. Lifeline believes that suicide is mostly preventable. Help us save lives. Find out what you can do at lifeline.org.au.
MELfeed.video is about to close operations for tonight, but we'll be back with you next Monday evening. In the meantime, here is a selection of programs that will be seen on our next scheduled web stream. You're welcome to visit our website at MELfeed.video for further details of this project. Until next time, from all of us here at MELfeed.video, we wish you a very good night.